to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you. So, Clerk, we have public in the overflow room in the locals lounge. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you. And so
We will not be using the public speaking cards. However,
Okay.
when you call public comment, they will hear it with a 30-second delay, and if they are interested in making comment, can make their way to form a queue in the hallway here.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Now it's time to adopt today's agenda. Can I get a motion and a second from the council?
Move approval to adopt the agenda.
I second.
Do we have any changes or discussion? No, seeing that. Okay, can we get a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember McKee?
Yes.
Councilmember Tripp? Yes. Councilmember Knight?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Reeves? Yes. Mayor Mueller?
Yes. Now, item 5, council member announcements. Do we have any announcements?
Yes.
Okay.
First off, I do want to thank the members of the community that have made donations to the food bank, the Canvey Food Bank, the barrel that is at the community center. The cereal is just about halfway full, so we have a little bit more to go. And then on June 2nd, we'll be announcing what the food bank needs for the month of June. So thank you to those who have made donations. And then I also wanted to offer a sincere apology for the mistake that I made during the last council meeting. I have already apologized to Thomas Keller, and I want to apologize to the community as well. You were right to expect better from your council members. I should have held myself to a higher standards, and my words fell short. The moment they left my mouth, I regretted them because I firmly believe that words matter. The moment, I think they matter, in life and in relationships and certainly in leadership. And once I spoke them, they cannot be taken back. But what I can do is reflect on the honestly on how I let this happen, learn from it, and commit myself to doing better moving forward. I want to apologize, of course, to my fellow council members as well. Regardless of disagreement or tension, we must conduct ourselves in a way that reflects positively on this governing body and on the community that we serve. And I'm sorry that I let you all down. Public service requires humility, accountability, and the willingness to own mistakes when we make them. And I fully accept responsibility for mine. To those who are willing to move forward in the spirit of community and civility, I again offer my apology sincerely. And to those of you who remain upset, I will respect your feelings. I was elected to listen, serve, and lead with integrity. And as long as I hold this seat, I will continue striving to do exactly that. So thank you for listening.
Does any other council members have any public council comments they'd like to make?
I would like to thank Councilmember McKee for her heartfelt apology, and I certainly accept it for my role on the council. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. I have a couple announcements to make. On Sunday, we will be having a event at the Yountville Pioneer Cemetery that starts at 1 o'clock. Mike Thompson will be our keynote speaker. And then on Monday, Memorial Day at 10 a.m., there will be a ceremony up at the Yountville Veterans Home for Memorial Day. And with that, looks like we're moving on to proclamations. The first proclamation, I would like to have our Director of Public Works, John Ferns, meet me at the podium, please.
Nice hats. Wow.
Hi, John. It is my pleasure to issue a proclamation for National Public Works Week, May 17th to May 23rd, rooted in service, powered by community. Whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of the town of Yountville. And whereas these infrastructures, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals, thank you guys and women for coming, who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting the town's transportation, water supply, wastewater treatment, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. And whereas it is in the public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and visitors in the town of Yountville to understand and maintain an ongoing interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their respective communities. And whereas the year 2026 marks the 61st year the town has been incorporated, and supporting the Yountville community with all public works related infrastructure and services, and May 17th to the 23rd is National Public Works Week. Now, therefore, let it be resolved that I, Margie Moeller, Mayor of the Town of Yountville, State of California, on this 19th day of May, 2026, hereby recognize May 17th to the 23rd, 2026, as National Public Works Week. I urge all citizens to join the Town Council to acknowledge our public works professionals, engineers, managers, and employees, and to recognize the substantial contributions they make, being rooted in service and powered by the community that is Yountville. Thank you very much, John. This is for you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Town Council. I am proud to accept this on behalf of the men and women standing here before you who make up your Public Works Department. I believe that you will concur that this group of people represent this year's National Public Works theme, rooted in service and powered by community. You will see that we're all wearing our Public Works first responder gear. This is to highlight the fact that, along with our more visible partners, the sheriff and the fire department, in times of need, we are here for you, and a reminder that even they call upon us when it's time to close the road for an accident or they need to use one of our fire hydrants to fight a fire. All three of us, Public Works, Police, and Fire, are indeed powered by the community. That said, it is rooted in service that powers this group of people in our day-to-day activities. This team works tirelessly to serve Yountville and deliver the town things like, and these are just a few examples, day-to-day monitoring of encroachment work, such as the town's noise ordinance and that 9 a.m. start time, tree work and work activity in the public right-of-way, preparation and hard work tracking the Public Works budget, writing and tracking and monitoring compliance of the procurement process for supplies, services, and public works projects, engineering review of the private development projects, including things like pool permits all the way up to the Oak and Vine subdivision, supporting our planning department, high quality upkeep of the town's public buildings, facilities, streets, and public parks that we all know and enjoy so much, ensuring that clean water flows into your house and the dirty water flows out of your house and every home and business, planning and executing the town's capital improvement program. Speaking of the capital improvement program, recent project deliveries that we've already accepted into our community include, in a somewhat chronological order and not a complete list, are the Washington Street South paving project, electrical fleet vehicle integration to the town's truck system, electrical charging stations at both public parks, community center major maintenance, including painting the building, doing the rain gutters, replacing the public bathroom counters, community center gym floor and basketball hoop replacement, shade sails at North Park, resurfacing the playgrounds at all the parks, community center gym floor and basketball hoops. I said that twice. We only did it once. methane flare system replacement at the wastewater treatment plant for compliance with the Bear Air Quality Management rules, the dog park at the Commons, rehabilitation of the elementary school site to the town's park and facility standards, Bud's Barbecue at the community center, most recently the Washington Street Corridor project, which included Weber, Madison, and the Ponchinchio sidewalk, the Oak Circle spillway and warning system, and then the most recent addition is the south parking lot that went into action about a week ago. And so this is not all of us. Some of us had to leave early to go pick up our kids from school and things like that, but this group does everything every day that the town, I hope, enjoys and appreciates. So thank you all for being here and all that you do.
Yeah. I feel like we don't want to go now.
My next proclamation is for Wildfire Awareness Month. Hillary, is anybody going to meet me? for the
We
proclamation?
have Chief Ham here,
Oh,
and
great.
who else will be receiving it? And Mr. J.R. Rogers, Fire Administrator,
And we have our Fire Marshal Jason Downs.
and Fire Marshal Jason Downs. And also, we have one other individual in the back there. Jason Novak. And Battalion Chief Jason Novak.
Great, great. Am I going to be able to give it to you here? You're going to be our speaker? Or you can all speak if you'd like. So this is a proclamation for Wildfire Awareness Month. After all those wins, no fires. Good job. Whereas extreme wildfires are an increasing threat to public health and safety, homes, air quality, climate goals, and our forests. California is experiencing fires that burn larger and hotter than ever before. And whereas since 2017, California has endured 72,456 wildfires. Wow, that's amazing. Including the Tubbs Fire, which is the fourth deadliest in state history, as well as the Atlas, Nuns, Glass, LNU Lightning Complex, and Pickett incident. And whereas with increased vegetation from winter rains and hotter, drier weather approaching, fire danger is expected to be high in 2026. Public education and up-to-date regional emergency planning are critical to strengthening community resilience to wildfire and other extreme weather events. And whereas wildfires are a natural, periodic occurrence in California, many native species depend on cyclical fires for survival. To continue to enjoy the economic and regional benefits of our rural and wilderness lands, we must strive to achieve a balance between California's fire ecology and the need to protect human life and property. And whereas here in Yountville, we know that fire prevention is everyone's responsibility. Every resident and property owner, especially those in high-risk areas, have a vital role to play in preventing the loss of life and property during wildfire events. During the month of May, as we begin peak fire season, we must take all responsibility for raising awareness and taking proactive steps to protect our homes, families, and communities. Whereas Napa County is committed to fire prevention and fuel mitigation, investing over $23 million over the past 4 years and matching funds to the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program and fuel reduction grants. And whereas in recognition of Wildfire Awareness Month, the Napa County Fire Department, in cooperation with CAL FIRE, Napa Community Firewise Foundation, 24 active fire safe councils, and our industry partners and numerous community partners, has intensified efforts to educate residents on essential wildfire preparedness steps. Life and property saving information can be found at the countyofnapa.org, napacounty.gov/countyfire, readynapacounty.org, and readyforwildfire.org. Now, therefore, let it be resolved, I, Margie Moeller, Mayor of the Town of Yountville, State of California, do hereby recognize May 2026 as Wildfire Awareness Month in Yountville, and in doing so, we extend our heartfelt gratitude to the brave men and women who dedicate their life's work to keeping our community safe from fire. We strongly urge all residents and property owners to understand and maintain appropriate vegetation management and defensible space, harden their homes, have an evacuation plan, assemble an emergency go bag, stay alert, informed, and ready. Thank you very much. And
Thank you, Mayor Moeller and fellow council members. So we as CAL FIRE wear a few different hats, and we're going to have a few different speakers. We'll try and keep this as short as possible because I know we have a lot of people in here today. We are the town's fire department, we're the county's fire department, and we're the state's fire department. So I'm going to be speaking at kind of multiple levels as I kind of go through this speech, but I'll keep it short, I promise. We're honored to accept this proclamation recognizing Wildfire Awareness Month. From 2017 through to the fires of the 2020s, our community has experienced devastating impacts across Napa County. Wildfires have affected our residents, our local economy, and our natural landscape that defines this region. These events have underscored the importance of preparedness, coordination, and sustained investment in fire resilience. Today, I want to acknowledge the dedicated team working every day to keep Yountville safe. Our Fire Marshal's Office continues its critical work educating the public and conducting inspections. Our partners at the Sheriff's Office play a vital role in coordinating evacuation plans, including public alerts and warnings. We also recognize the coordination of our Fire Administrator and Napa FireWise for their leadership in fuels reduction efforts ahead of the peak fire season, as well as our network of 24 active resident fire safe councils remains deeply committed to strengthening wildfire resilience across the communities. Fire does not recognize boundaries and affects everyone. Over the past 2 years, we have graduated 47 new volunteers with the County Fire Department. This past Sunday, we graduated 15 volunteers, bringing our total volunteer force to nearly 175 volunteer firefighters serving the town of Yountville and the county of Napa. Under the leadership of CAL FIRE Director Joe Tyler and the local fire chief Matt Ryan, we have expanded year-round engine staffing across the Sonoma Lake Napa region, including 3 engines here in Napa County. These additional resources enhance emergency response and support fuels reduction projects locally. Importantly, these state-funded resources come at no additional cost to the town of Yountville. CAL FIRE continues to advance technologies across Sonoma Lake Napa, including the deployment of new AI-powered fire detection cameras to improve early wildfire detection and response. Through our continued cooperative agreement, I am also pleased to announce that the return of the exclusive use Chinook helicopter to the Napa County Airport. A familiar call sign, 8 Papa Juliet, has the capacity of 2,300 gallons of night flying capability. And a Firehawk is stationed at Boggs Mountain, and 1 additional exclusive use helicopter at the Sonoma Air Attack Base, each equipped to deliver 1,000 gallons of water and night flying capabilities. In closing, wildfire is a reality that we continue to face across California, including here in Yountville. It is essential that we remain committed to building fire resilience across our communities and neighboring counties because wildfire does not recognize boundaries. So I'd like to thank you all very much for this proclamation and allow a chance for Jason Downs, our County Fire Marshal, to speak.
All right, thank you, Chief Ham, and thank you, Mayor, members of the Town Council, Jason Downs, Napa County Fire Marshal. And I want to thank you for this proclamation recognizing Wildfire Preparedness Month. On behalf of the Napa County Fire Marshal's Office, I want to express our appreciation for the continued partnership with the town of Yountville. We are proud to support the community with a dedicated team of 7 full-time staff members and 6 seasonal defensible space inspectors. Our office works year-round to meet the town's fire prevention and life safety needs. Our responsibilities include construction plan review and inspections, defensible space inspections and enforcement, public education, and we provide timely fire and safety information during emergency incidents. These efforts are all focused on strengthening wildfire resilience and helping protect the residents, the businesses, and the visitors to the town of Yountville. We are honored to provide these services on behalf of Napa County Fire and value the strong collaboration we share with the town. Thank you again for your partnership and your commitment to wildfire preparedness and community safety.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. My name is J.R. Rogers, Fire Administrator. And on behalf of the Board of Supervisors and CEO Alsop, just want to thank you for this proclamation and thank you for the continued partnership that we all enjoy here with the town, with Calvet, within our fire department. As been mentioned, with the 2017, 18, and 2020 fires, that was a big wake-up call for all of us. And we all banded together as communities throughout the Napa Valley, putting resources, funds, and just time into really bringing forward the awareness and trying to make Napa County more resilient. And so the county putting up funds, I know a lot of the towns have done so as well, and a lot of time. And just want to thank you for that. Thank you for the acknowledgement and the awareness, and just thank you for the reminder that we all need to do this together and be prepared and be ready to go. So thank you for the time and appreciate all of you.
Mayor, I just wanted to, I appreciate the comment. I wanted to thank the county fire chief that's here for your comments. I know we've worked the last few years with the county and CAL FIRE to upgrade and increase the team size at Station 12. We all feel safer and we support the work that they do. And so thank you very much for all you do for the community.
And I just want to, thank you on behalf of all of our residents and our council for everything you do. And just a really special comment for all the Firewise work and other teams who have been involved at the Veterans Home. It's a very vulnerable population up there. They're in a very rural area. I know that we talk about that at their allied council meetings, and they're all very, very grateful, along with the administration staff up there. So, again, just wanted to thank you on their behalf. So, great job. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming. Okay, now it's time for public comment. That's anything that is not on our agenda today. We have 5 minutes. You can come up and speak, and we have overflow public in the locals lounge, and there's a 30-second delay, so we'll give them an extra 30 seconds once everyone's had a chance to speak in this room for them to. Town clerk is checking that they can hear us over there.
All systems are good. Thank you.
Good. That's very good. So who would like to come up and address the council first? Just come up and state your name, please.
Jeffrey Lake. I live at 108 Champagne Drive in Bella Vista Park, Yountville. Good morning, Mayor and council members. Good afternoon, Welcome, Ken McNabb. We're here before you today to express our gratitude for your quick response to our request that you direct staff to commence the process for development and implementing of a rent stabilization ordinance for the senior mobile home parks in Yountville. Today, in addition to representatives from Bella Vista, we have with us residents of Rancho de Napa Estates. Together, we see the benefits that a rent stabilization ordinance would provide to the 234 senior households in Rancho, as well as the 85 homes occupied by senior citizens in Bella Vista. We gather today and will continue to show our support in the future, and we thank you for recognizing our need for rent stabilization ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. Ken, do you have any update? I know this is going to be on a future agenda.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Moeller. Council members, Ken McNabb, interim town manager. Per council's direction, I've had conversations with each of you. I've asked our community, our planning director, Aaron Heacock, to bring back an item to council this summer that presents the scope of work that would be required to prepare a stabilization ordinance for feedback from the council and from the community and residents here. So we anticipate, I don't have an exact date for you, but it will be coming forward this summer for direction from council.
All right, thanks for that update. Would anybody else like to come up and address the council? Yes, you can just come on up if no one's here and state your name.
My name is Sandy Fagan. I live at Rancho de Napa. And I want to just speak, maybe just give you a couple of thoughts about rent stabilization. But before I jump into that, what I really want to do as a more personal matter is to let you know, each and every one of you, how much I appreciate the work you do on the council. I appreciate the time, the energy, intellectual, physical that you put into this, going through packets of materials maybe the day before you're due for a council meeting, knowing ordinances and going through all sorts of materials and whatnot. There's a lot going on, and you use your time, I'm sure, well. I just appreciate that very much. I think that in your capacity as council members, though, each one of you brings something very special to the council. We don't make decisions, especially important decisions, on the basis of an individual issuing an edict of some sort. But it's because you have a diverse life experience and set of priorities, things that are important to you. The discussions you have are enlightening. They bring up issues for others to bounce off. I just want you to know I really appreciate what you do. And I know it's not an easy job. Yes, do you get paid? Sure. Is it sufficient? Probably not. Do you get attention from the community? Absolutely. Is that glory something you're seeking? And I know it's not. But I do want to let you know that. Okay? I really appreciate what you do, and I know it's not easy. What I wanted to do was a couple of things about the council and so forth, just to make a couple of quick comments. My dad took me to Napa council meetings when I was a kid. We would sit through those. I hardly understood what was going on, but it was important. It was the pomp, the circumstance, all that sort of thing. It's very important. When I turned 12, I think it was, my dad decided he was going to run for council. And so I was able to accompany him when he would go to campaign events, and he'd go to talk to fraternal organizations and folks in the community, the Kiwanis, and then community meetings and so forth, and talk to them. One of the biggest issues at the time that he ran was wastewater and sanitation for Napa River. There was raw sewage into the river. There was some attempts at mitigating that, but they were not successful. So there was really, at one point they were calling it a cesspool, and it was really, the stench was incredible, and it certainly wasn't a healthy place. So that was a really big issue, and the whole community came together and agreed that we need a treatment plant. The issues that arose were, where's it going to go? How much is it going to cost? Who's going to build it? Who's going to manage it? We had multiple communities in the valley, and that had to be hashed out. By about 1968, things came together, and now, over time, they have moved further into that. And I just want to mention to you that some of the challenges that come before us aren't new. The issues themselves may be, but the idea that we come together and then we have to deal with the subsets are going to be a part of our community for a long time. I did want to just make a quick comment too on the Bella Vista issues. I can't speak for them because they know their situation much better than I do, and probably speak more eloquently than I ever could. But I would suggest that when we talk about rent stabilization, that we be careful about casting too broad a net. Yes, there are similarities, for example, between the two properties here in Yountville, but there are differences in management, in theory, in size. There are differences I think we have to acknowledge, and one size fits all in an ordinance can be very carefully drawn so that one intended helpful sort of thing doesn't disadvantage the other, no matter how that flows. So I would share that with you. It's really important that the people that own our properties receive a fair return on their investments. Hence, we to have a rent control where we have a single rent when you come in and it stays unchanged unless there's some extraordinary situation to raise it. Stabilization is a soft, easy, predictable growth in our for us as tenants in the issue. I'll also probably want to say that there are lots and lots of mobile home rent stabilization ordinances out there. There's one, most recent one I could find was in Tuolumne, and it was proposed and all that in June 6th of 2025. So it's fairly new. I looked at it. It seems to be pretty comprehensive. It may be good to look and pick and choose from some of these more recent ones, the kinds of things that we'd want to see in ours. Multiple year leases, especially 1, 2, 5, 10 years, with rent increases more or less for the length of the lease you're willing to take on. There are lots of very creative ideas that can be done out there if we're going to talk about this. So you may have lots of experience out here, people who can talk to rent stabilization. One of the things my concern is there's pros and there's cons about affordable housing with regard to rent stabilization. And that's that people may be less likely to build new housing if it's going to cost them, that they may not feel they're going to be fairly get a fair return on their on the other hand, people may choose not to move because they're going to stay there, so it doesn't free up property and that sort of thing. Pros and cons, we want to talk about those as well. Anyway, thank you very much for giving us some time to talk with you today. That's the one thing I got to tell you, that you folks have given us an open mic for a very long time, and I appreciate that.
Okay, next.
Thank you. Good afternoon, and thank you very much for what you did about taking on the agenda item of the rent stabilization issue. I'm also a resident of Bella Vista Park and a member of the Golden State Mobile Home Owners League, and very concerned with what's happening with residents in the community I live in, which I'm brand new to, by the way, came in last year. But it's not my first rodeo. I've owned mobile homes in 2 other parks, not in California, they were in Wyoming. And there's an organization called the Mobile Home Park Management Association, which has got a very strong lobby in Washington, D.C., and in states as well. And they spend a lot of their time trying to figure out how to make it harder for residents to, basically stay in parks, because they raise the rents, they add on fees, and so on. One park I was in Wyoming, they raised the rent 15% in 1 year. It wasn't a senior park, but there were a lot of seniors in the park, and it caused a lot of them to not be able to afford to stay in the park any longer. And that's my biggest concern from my neighbors in Bella Vista, is that anything that these owners can do, specifically in Bella Vista, since that's the park I live in, could affect people's abilities to remain in the park and remain in their homes they've been in for many, many years. These folks are on very limited fixed incomes. I happen not to be, but many of the residents are and cannot afford a 10 or 15% rent raise. And actually what happened last year or at the beginning of this year, the owners of Bella Vista Park raised the rent 4%. Seems very reasonable, doesn't it? A little, higher than the cost of living, the CPI. However, they also added water fees onto our park rent, which previously were taken in as part of the rent. Rent went from $11.37 to $11.82. That's the 4% increase. And then they added a roughly $75 per month to each of us for water. That's another 6%. That's a 10% increase in 1 year for these poor folks who can't afford.
Can you please address the council? Thank you.
I'm merely acknowledging the audience I live with, so allow me to do that, please.
Well, the problem is we televise this, and a lot of people who watch it streaming or on live, they can't see or hear the speaker. So we're just trying
I talk very loudly, so I'm sure they can hear me just fine. The bottom line is that I think that like many park owners who belong to this organization nationally, they believe they are entitled to a 60% margin on their property rents. That is actually onerous and outrageous for people who are on fixed incomes. For non-senior parks, maybe that could be the case. But for senior parks where we require to live on a fixed income, we would appreciate very much having more stable rent. And rent control is not what we're asking for, obviously. It's rent stabilization, a much more gentle, or soft, as somebody said, approach. And so we appreciate you bringing this to the table on an agenda item in the future. I'd be happy to offer my insights as required, but I've owned multiple mobile homes in multiple parks. They're not all bad actors, but there are a lot of bad actors out there who are very wealthy people who believe they can pick on people who aren't so wealthy. And I think that's really a problem. So that's really fundamentally what I wanted to say. I think we want to provide a predictable, manageable, fair, and equitable treatment for all park residents in Yountville, regardless of which park you're in, just as long as it's fair for everyone. And that's my point. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Mayor and council members and staff. My name is Denny. I'm here to represent the ownership group of Rancho de Napa. I understand that rent stabilization is not formally on tonight's agenda, and from what I understand, the conversation may still be in the early stages. I understand why residents are concerned about rent. Housing stability matters. People deserve dignity, predictability, and a fair chance to remain in the community they call home. It's important to note that we have been using a lease that was negotiated with the residents, the town, and the attorney since the late 1990s, and we have religiously adhered to those terms. Over the last 10 years, our rent increases have been modest and measured. We have not used our rent increases as a way to push people out. We have tried to balance the needs of residents with the real cost of maintaining a safe, clean, and livable housing community. For example, during COVID, our increase was less than 1%. It was actually 0.65%, about $5. In other years, even when CPI increased sharply, our increase remained reasonable, often around $25 to $30. That history shows restraint, it shows responsibility, and I believe should be part of this discussion. My concern is that rent stabilization, if considered too broadly or too quickly, can create unintended consequences. It can discourage property improvements. It can make it harder to keep up with rising insurance, utilities, repairs, taxes, labor, and maintenance costs. It can reduce the incentive for owners to keep rental housing available. And over time, it can actually shrink the housing supply, which hurts the very residents we all want to protect. Rent control is very expensive and time-consuming for the town. And for the property owners, it creates a barrier between owners and residents. We have been good neighbors, and we hope the town will move carefully and look at the real data. Please include responsible housing providers in this conversation. Please focus on actual abuse where it exists, rather than creating a blanket policy that may punish those who are already trying to do the right thing. We want residents to stay, we want stability, and we need policies that keep housing maintained, available, and sustainable for all parties. Thank you.
I'm not really sure if I know there's a town manager
Do
adoption.
you mind stating your name?
Oh, sorry about that. No fireworks today. My name is Gary Jabara. There's an agenda item later for the town to adopt a hiring of a consultant to go find a new town manager. So I don't want to speak on that. I just want to suggest some operating improvements to the town manager. I don't know if they're related or not. Is that appropriate for me to? It is an agendized item, and I know comments are supposed to be not on the agenda, but I'm not talking about the consultant. I'm just suggesting process. So
if it's
Gary.
a process related to hiring?
No, not
okay.
process related to hiring.
It's nothing to do with us hiring a town manager? Okay. Right?
Yeah, you got to hire a town manager, and you got to hire a recruiting firm. I have nothing to say about that.
Yeah, no, that sounds like general public comment for now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And for the record, I'm for rent stabilization. By the way, my parents were limited to low income, so I think it's a great idea. Anyway, just some thoughts here about, everything is about people, process, and technology in business, in complex businesses like this town and like ours across the street. So just some suggestions here on a go-forward basis for the town council to consider for whomever you guys select as a new town manager. Ken, probably nobody more qualified to select a town manager than a town manager. Second rodeo. Hopefully you're not back for a third. I would suggest, I've got some suggestions here. I'll leave them with the town council, but I'll read through some at a high level. I'm going to suggest that the town consider some reduced administrative spending authority. Look at the town manager's unilateral authority to approve professional service agreements, consultants, and whatnot. And then any aggregate expenditure exceeding a modest threshold should require town council approval. So other agreements aren't added to without some very detailed council oversight. Aggregation of related consultant contracts, consultant agreements that are related by subject matter should be considered in aggregate. Maybe a change to some mandatory competitive procurement standards rather than no competitive process if it's related to, ordinary business, I think, as this town is structured. Maybe some more detailed quarterly reporting requirements, detailing all consultant expenditures, contracts, amendments, change orders, and whatnot, but available regularly to the public so it's clear, so we don't have to dig through lengthy documents to try and find it like we had to last time. I would suggest an independent review of consultant utilization, an outside auditor, municipal finance professional, or somebody like that to look at some of the consultant work that's gone on in the past or in the future. Council approval for contract amendments smaller than what is required currently. Some enhanced transparency measures I think would be great. The town should maintain easily accessible public ledger on its website, identifying active consultants, active contract values, amendment history, scope descriptions, and whatnot, so we don't have to go find it. Separation of procurement and oversight functions. Somebody that procures shouldn't also be somebody that has sole oversight. And then just the usual stuff, annual performance review metrics. Maybe you might want to change or review some of the stuff you've done in the past so we're not in the same situation as we are or we've been in the past. And then maybe more robust council notification requirements by the town manager to the council about certain things that are happening. So things that have happened in the past don't happen in the future. So that's it. I'll give this to you. You can give that to the council. And then one last thought, currently that, I think Brad's being paid till the end of August without benefits and whatnot. It's about $22,000 a month or thereabouts, best guess. And then we have an interim town manager that's being compensated about the same without benefits and whatnot. So we're running at about $45,000 a month for town manager services right now till at least the end of August or until somebody new is hired. And when that new person is hired, I'm sure there's going to be a transition period with Ken, who I know you're going to do a great job. So certainly not an indictment of you, but just be aware. $45,000 unloaded with benefits is probably closer to $60,000 a month. That's an inordinate burn for a town our size, for somebody that created a lot of issues for all of us. So please be concerned about the money that you're burning constantly, currently as well. Okay? So I'll give this to as well. So that's all I've got to say. Thank you.
Mayor, just a short comment. I just wanted to, I appreciate all the comments. I appreciate, I'm here and appreciate Mr. Javaro's comments. But what I would suggest you do is stay for our budget meeting. We're discussing a biennial budget this year that very clearly lays out our spending. It also clearly lays out our savings, the reserves we have, maybe also if you would note on a monthly basis on our consent calendar we have financial reporting. It's all there, very visible. You're also very welcome to call the town if you need to locate something instead of accusing of the council or the staff of hiding information. It's here. we have a budget meeting. You're welcome to stay and hear what we're going to talk about and approve. I challenge you to try to stay and listen and hear what we do and do for this community. So thank you.
Would anyone else like to come up and address the council? You can come up with public for public comments. We have somebody at the podium, and you can come up next. Thanks.
All right, Ashley Tencher. I'd like to bring up something that's not on the agenda today and encourage the town and all the people that make decisions to think ahead about this important topic.
Oh, thank you.
Phasing at the former school site is an important part of a strategy to maintain what we like about Yountville and to imagine what we would like more of in Yountville. So I'd like to describe 4 assumptions I have as I think about this really important topic. One is that the majority of units that will be affordable to extremely low and very low income households will most likely be built on town-owned land. The HCD's RHNA 7th and later housing cycles will require the town to build more units above and beyond the 6th cycle, 72 units. No planning, permitting, or building from this 6th cycle will cascade forward against future RHNA requirements. Assumption number 3, the town can influence but not control additional housing units on parcels owned by others. Assumption 4, the town can control to a greater measure additional housing units on parcels it owns. So it seems advantageous to phase so the former school site can satisfy decades and decades of RHNA asks. In this way, Yountville would retain agency over its housing element and manage the character and appeal of our shared place. I strongly recommend phasing.
Right. Now, would someone else like to, do you have a comment? Can you come up to the podium?
Hi, I'm Catherine Villa. I just wanted to gently convey that as an audience, I did not hear any accusation. I thought all he was suggesting is to streamline the process a little bit, and it's just my only second time that I sit in on these meetings, and I know probably you didn't mean it that way, but it came off very defensive. And the joy, I bought a house here 10 years ago, and the beauty of this town and just the intimacy of this that allows people to speak freely. So it was just jarring to hear it right away put aside, because it immediately, what it says to me, I don't even know Gary, what it says to me just as somebody who moved here is, we're not interested in what you have to say. I mean, that's really an accusation. When you say to somebody, you just accused me, when they all were they were doing nothing but making a suggestion, it was very off-putting, that's all. And I just hope it can be corrected. That's it. That's the only comment I have to make. Thank you.
Mayor, just briefly.
Yes.
I appreciate you getting up and speaking. My comment was more an observation of a continual kind of communication that Mr. Jorar has had with the council. I'm not sure. I'd encourage you to maybe read the letter last Thursday in the Sun. We also read the R-rated version that was submitted to his group of followers after the last council meeting that I also was able to read. So it's just really in my wish that we talk about communicating better, but also about just getting together, understanding what we're all trying to do in this community to improve the community. And I was also wanting to say that our staff is here and available at any point to help someone find information that they need to find, and it's available. It's available on our council agendas in our website, and that's what I encourage everyone to do. Is if you have questions, give the town a call. Thank you.
All right. Would anybody? Yes, Councilor.
May I respond to that question? I do think it's good to remember we improvement is always a good thing, and we have really wonderful, deep financial information, sometimes too deep. And one of the things that I took away from what Mr. Jabara was saying, and this is actually something I have mentioned to Celia before, in many organizations where I've worked, mostly because people are busy, especially higher management, is a dashboard. Just one-page dashboard that shows everything, a little bit of TOT, a little bit about how we're doing on the current budget. We used to use red, green, yellow. I'm sure all of you who've worked in any sort of organization know that. So I hope we can take some positive things away from what was said, although I do agree there's a lot of information, but a lot of my problem is sometimes understanding it and reducing it to something that's meaningful in terms of how we're doing. So I just hope I do understand completely and agree with what Eric is saying. There's a lot of information, but to the extent we can make it clearer and more accessible, that's always a good thing, I think. And it would help the council, too. The budget process is really complex, and I have spent some time individually with Celia, and his name escapes me. He's really, Kyle, excellent. And it's a world unto itself how public entity budgeting works. It's not anything like I really experienced in the financial corporate world. So, I think anything we can do that's better is a good thing. And so when we have people, so that would just be my comment, although I do agree there is, and we have gotten awards for our, the Government Financial Officers Association, yes, we have gotten awards for our budget because it is detailed and very, very complete. But my request would just be, because that's, they have that saying, if you don't measure it, it won't be, measurement leads to improvement, and clear measurement can only lead to more improvement. So I really support that idea. And maybe that's something we can look at in the future, some sort of really easy dashboard that has all of what, I hate these KPI, key performance metrics or whatever indicators, but rather just a dashboard so we could see what's going on. So thank you. That's all I wanted to say.
Have anybody else like to come up and address the council? Maybe we'll give 30 seconds to anybody in the locals lounge who would like to come forward, or is there anybody in the hallway?
It looks like we have a commenter coming from the back.
I've got kids in the garden, but thank you very much.
Bad timing.
Yeah, please come up and address the council and use the mic.
So it's been racking my brain. I'm Karen Thurling, and I've spoken before. Good to see you all. So the 72 units that's required, we have done 12, right? Of that 72 has been taken care of?
Aaron, can you address that for us?
That's correct. We've issued building permits for 12 units.
Okay, but they haven't been built yet.
Some of them have, some of them haven't.
Okay, so we have 12 off of the...
Correct.
Okay. So do the units that Thomas Keller is working on now, are those included in that, or can they be part of the workforce?
I don't know what those units are.
What's that?
I don't know what units you're referring to.
Well, he mentioned last week, and then also there's people in town that I think they apply for ADU units. Do those go towards the 72 units or the existing units that are left for us to achieve the 72? Do you understand? No?
I think she's asking if are any of the ADU units that have been built, have they been put into the affordable housing restricted?
No.
They're
None
not
of the ADUs
restricted.
have been deed
It doesn't
restricted.
work that way, or does it?
Sometimes it can, sometimes it can. If it's part of a larger housing development, sometimes some of those ADUs will be deed restricted. But if it's just a single family home building an ADU, typically those aren't deed restricted.
Can we do that? Can
we can have incentives for folks where they can get loans for deed restrictions to help them
And then that
offset
would
the cost.
also accommodate our number, yes or no?
It can, yes.
Okay.
But that's up to the homeowner.
Okay, that's okay, but that's
Not the
strike
government.
one. Okay, but then, so Thomas Keller was mentioning that he's working on some units for his workforce. And I think he has already, but he's also, I think, in the midst of, I think it was 8. What does
But we're not, we don't know about those, right?
No.
Right.
Well, I'm going by, I was the audience the last time we had a meeting, and he was mentioning about he was working presently on some units, 8, and I said, well, could those be added? I'll ask Thomas, but I think we should see about these things that come up, because we need to figure out how we can afford what we need to buy, okay? Because that has been the problem, is that we can't afford even the first phase of the previous plan, okay? So maybe we can find some ways to get up to 2031. Just a thought.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Aaron, the ADUs, in terms of just total numbers, not necessarily affordable, they do count towards being a housing unit, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so they do reduce, although we have to meet certain affordability, but they do reduce the overall number.
They do.
Okay, I just want to clarify that.
Yeah, I have another question for you, Director. Say 2 units that are already rentals here in town that are being remodeled by a business owner. Would those be renewed into the numbers that we need to meet? Because Mr. Housley asked that specifically. He's refreshing his units and he's wondering if
They would not, and potentially if the owner wanted to deed restrict them in some way, potentially we could get credit for a conversion to an affordable unit. But if it's already an existing unit, you don't get credit for those.
Thank you.
All right. Would anybody else like to come up and address the council? I see no one else, so I am going to close the non-agenda public comment and move on to our consent calendar. Our consent calendar today, we have 6 items. First, I'd like to ask for a motion and a second, and then I will take public comment. Do we have a motion to approve today's consent calendar?
Move approval of the consent calendar.
I'll second.
Okay. Do we have any public comment on our consent calendar today?
Mayor,
Yes.
I would, whoops, I can't see it now. But I just wanted to refer the audience to consent calendar item C, which is receive and file the April 2026 monthly financial report for the town.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no public comment on our consent calendar, can we get a roll call vote for approval, Town Clerk?
Councilmember McKee?
Yes.
Councilmember Tripp? Yes. Councilmember Knight?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Reeves? Yes. Mayor Moeller?
Yes. We have no guest presentations today and no public hearings, so let's move on to our administrative regular items. Item 11A is to consider adopting a resolution approving the biennial budget for fiscal year 2026 and 2027 and 27-28, and the appropriations for the GAN limit and for fiscal year 2026-2027, approving salary ranges and reaffirming existing policies. And also, let's see, use of long-term debt, OPEB funding policy, OPEB trust investment policy, the utility enterprise rate policy, use of drought water reserve policy, use of the water and wastewater utility enterprise capital projects, restricted fund policy, and the fund balance policy. So with that, can we get our finance administrative director of administrative services, I can never get that one out, to Mr. McNabb
Yeah,
going
but
to
if I may say,
introduce
Mayor,
us?
just a couple quick comments on this. So, as council knows, but maybe members of the public may not realize, this budget is the culmination of probably more than 6 months of work from your staff to put this document together. During that process, you held 3 public meetings to review the budget, to have study sessions on specific aspects of the budget, the general fund expenditures, your capital projects, your utility funds. And so I just wanted to acknowledge your leadership team who's sitting here before you for their work, and especially for Celia and Kyle for their work, and even recognition of former manager Ralston for overseeing largely most of that work effort. So with that, thank you, team, and Celia, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Town Manager. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council members. Another budget PowerPoint, but I can assure you this one is not 70 pages like some of the other ones. So as Town Manager introduced, we did start this process with a budget preview on February 3rd to kick off these discussions, and had 2 budget workshops in April. I just want to point out that the PowerPoint slides for both of those workshops are on the town's finance webpage, and they do include a lot of detailed data. And then today, hopefully, budget final presentation and adoption. So this is a little high-level slide with some key budget highlights. The general fund is balanced in both fiscal years without the use of reserved. And we will be in fiscal year 26-27 paying off the 2020 direct placement financing debt. Utility enterprise funds are both in a healthy fiscal status and able to accommodate daily operations and a multitude of projects. And the wastewater fund will also pay off some debt to the state water resources loan in November of this year. $14.8 million in planned capital improvement projects. That does include the water and wastewater projects in that number. Total expenditure budget is 37.1, almost 0.2 million. And a little more detail, I know this slide is very small, but a little more detail about how that 37.1 million is distributed between general fund, capital projects, enterprise funds, and the special revenue funds, and then the debt service. A little bit more about our reserves. So we do have the assigned for budget and legal contingencies, which is set by policy at 5% of estimated general fund expenditures. So in fiscal year 26-27, that translates to over $730,000. And then separate from that, we have the general fund reserve. Again, there's no planned usage of that reserve in this upcoming biennial budget. And that will hover around 38-39% of general fund expenditures, which does exceed the policy minimum of 35% of general fund expenditures. And this is a snapshot of our staffing structure that is supported by this biennial budget in both fiscal years. And then lastly, revisiting a slide that we've seen in the other 2 PowerPoints as well, the general fund 5-year forecast. So a little bit of explanation on this slide, starting with those peaks, those red peaks that you will see in prior fiscal years. Just want to clarify that those are not the town exceeding its adopted budget. Those are one-time expenditures that were driven by utilization of general fund surplus. So it is not a matter of the town expending more than its current available resources. It was resources from prior years that were not used and then were reallocated in the next fiscal year, which caused those one-time spikes. And then also this slide is something that is based on assumptions that are true as of this moment. So we use data that we know and data that is available as of now. And this is a slide that we revisit every fiscal year as we prepare the new budget or the mid-cycle update. And so these numbers will change. This is by no means something that will absolutely happen. It is a scenario of what could happen. And as we move into a different environment, we look at those revenue collection trends and cost estimates as of that point to update these out years. And the final steps here will be, if the budget is adopted today, we will submit, as Councilmember Tripp said, to the Government Finance Officers Association for the Distinguished Budget Award that we have been happy to report we've gotten that for a number of years. And then the budget book can be accessed online by the public immediately as we put that on our website. And then if a physical budget book is desired, that can be viewed at Town Hall or the Yountville Library as of July 1. So with that, we are happy to answer any questions or have additional comments as well. Thank you.
Any questions from the council? I know, just to give everyone a background, we've spent, we had several meetings. One setting general parameters that everybody, the council wanted to see, and we took public comment from that. Then we had 2 over 4-hour plus sessions going through the budget in great detail. And now we are at the stage where it will be up to the council to approve this 2-year budget that we have. So that's been the process. And in between time, we've been given a lot of information. We've had long meetings with both our administrative service director, as well as various staff members, and the town manager, as well as, I'm sure, the town attorney with any questions from the council. So it's actually a very rigorous exercise we go through every year. So with that, Councilmember Tripp, do you have questions?
I do have a question. I just want to compliment the Administrative Services Director and Kyle on their really excellent work. So
Thank you.
I always get my questions answered with very reliable information and very carefully prepared. So thank you. And this is an actual a question about being enlightened, not a critical question. But that slide that you were showing that everybody looks at with the red line, right.
Yes.
And I do remember and have experienced the blips, where the red, where we had excess funds, usually at the end of the year, because TOT exceeded what we had projected, or maybe there was less budget spending because positions were open. So wouldn't the line, wouldn't the other line go down? Because, in other words, we didn't spend all the money that came in? I guess that's what I'm trying to figure out. Why does the red line go up when we have extra money? Do you see what I'm saying? Or not
Right.
extra money, but money that wasn't dedicated in the budget to something we were planning to spend.
That's a great question. And I think that probably it's just because it is looking at a certain fiscal year and it's comparing revenues and expenditures for that fiscal year.
Just for that year.
So in the current year, we have a certain amount that we're collecting. And then if we use revenues that were collected in a prior year, that's going to jump up the expenditures, because in a budget year, we have expenditures less than revenues. But if we use revenue from a prior fiscal year, those expenditures will go up, whereas the revenue in that current year stays the same.
Okay, so it's almost like one line isn't adjusting.
Correct.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
So it's not like we get credit for having extra. It just shows up in a spending line.
Correct.
Is
Yes.
that okay? Yes. Because, and this is just a suggestion. Everybody looks at it, and people mention on the council that it looks scary, but it wasn't at the last meeting. I'm sure this slide shows something, but it doesn't show. It doesn't show what people immediately assume, which is what you said. It doesn't show that we're spending more than what the revenue is, and so
I agree. I think
it's a slide
it's
that really disturbs people, and because it seems so obvious, but it's not really obvious, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
I agree it can be disturbing because in the past you're looking at things that actually happened, and then how is that relative to what we're going forward with, which is things that we don't know what are going to happen. So it is an awkward slide, but it is, I think, mostly meant to focus on those out years and where we think that we may come into some maybe harder decisions in those years. But again, that's based on what we know right now. Okay. And as we go forward in those fiscal years, things could get better. Things could also get worse. We don't know. And that's why we monitor it as much as we can and bring it to council every year with the budget.
Okay. Well, and I didn't mean it wasn't good. So I think what I would take away is the most important part of that slide is looking forward.
Looking forward, yes.
Not
that's the forecast.
Looking back.
Correct,
so
yes.
It wouldn't be accurate to say, oh my gosh, we were in the red in whatever that was, some of those years with the spikes.
Right.
Okay, got it. Thank you. That was all I wanted to say. And then also,
yes.
I really like the 2-year cycle. And one of the things that Steve Rogers said to me when I first came on board, which I think is very true, the budget is our work plan. And that's why I think it takes so much time on all of yours. You could just throw numbers in there, but it's really your work plan, what you're planning to do over the next year. So it is a good effort, and it's certainly helpful.
Correct. And I do want to let you know that I hear the ask for a dashboard or simplified information. This budget is 230-something pages, so it is a lot of information. I do want to point out that in the front section of the budget, there is budget summaries, and it's more focused on general fund, but it does have the information in maybe a more visual way with some pie charts and things like that. So budget summaries might be helpful to those who are looking for the data in a more of a snapshot view. But of course, we can also look at dashboards and see if there's a better way we can present things.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
And also with this slide, what a lot of people do for future years that aren't real data, they dash the line. And so that might just be a visual way to show we have solid data and now we've got proposed data.
Correct.
So
yes.
Just a thought. A lot of ways to graph stuff out and a lot of ways to chart things and look at Y's and X axes and things like that. We're not ready for public comment yet. I'll make sure we get there. So, Councilman, yeah.
Oh, were you next?
No.
I don't know.
Oh,
go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to explore this idea of a dashboard because I think everybody would like to just be enlightened like that. And a dashboard is only as good as who decided what information is necessary and what information is helpful. So sort of establishing the parameters of a dashboard, I think, would be quite difficult to address everybody's concerns. So, I mean, that whole idea needs exploration on your part for sure, but also on the part of the council/community, because not everybody's looking for the same information. And so it'll be important to kind of consider all that stuff as if we move forward on the idea of a dashboard. It needs to be concise enough to be a dashboard, but address everybody's issues, I guess, is the term.
Correct.
So, yeah.
And we do have the transparency portal that's available online. But again, that can be seen as a little bit of a data dump. And if you don't know what you're looking for, it can be a little hard to search. So I think you're correct in having some parameters or criteria would be helpful.
Yeah, just sometimes, a simple YouTube video, on how to read this and where to go might just be, pretty helpful, something as simple as that, depending on, to the Vice Mayor's point, what you're really looking at, because the stuff, I don't find the general stuff as much useful as, all the different departments. Where is this going and what are they doing? So again, it depends on your perspective, because we do, everything is broken down by department, and that's very critical to our budget. And even if it was up to me, I'd present this data in a very different way. But so there's just a lot of ways to kind of look at it. So to your point, yes, that's I think providing just how you even find our financial page in the YouTube video would, be useful. But a lot of people don't even know that we have other YouTube videos online. So it's, I think, a lot of that general information. Maybe we can talk about that in more detail with the public sometime. So anyway, Councilmember McKee.
Thank you. You actually took one of my ideas because I was thinking of more of a kind of a tutorial, and certainly since relationships within this small town and within our small staff are important, YouTube videos are great, but also, you know, kind of maybe a little session with Kyle is a great teacher. I know he showed me how to drive and the widgets that are available. So maybe we can look to that in the future. Everybody is busy, you're right, and especially the executives in town, but the more people that know how to operate and find information on the back end, the better. Thank you. Yeah, I wanted to ask, since we did the budget workshops, things have changed in town, and being cognizant of the expenses and the changes with the town manager, kind of the overlapping, and also recruiting. I wanted to ask which budget we're still in 25, 26 and on the cusp of 26, 27. So I wanted to find out how that was going to be funded.
For the recruitment firm?
Recruitment, and of course, I guess the employee costs are going to be just
those are already
attributed
budgeted.
to their
Correct.
to their months.
Yes. So the personnel costs are budgeted based on prior town manager salary. So that could be something that needs to be looked into, but I think that is when you get to that point of negotiating an agreement with a new manager. In the current fiscal year, we do have some town manager contingency that can be allocated to these additional costs, and also some savings in the town manager budget, which is where recruitment usually occurs. So we can accommodate that in this fiscal year. Going forward, there is a small budget for personnel services in the town manager. I think actually in the budget workshop, we said we had dropped that down because we foresaw a smaller need for it. So it is a smaller budget, but it is available for recruitment. And we do have some on-call consultant as needed budget that we can use. So there is capacity if this does go beyond what we have in the current fiscal year.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, can you also address one of the comments about our burn rate for town managers, like 65,000, because I think per month. I know we're not paying nearly that right now because we're getting a pretty good bargain with Ken, and we're not paying into his pension and all that. But we heard that earlier, so I just wanted to. Can you correct the record on that?
I don't have that offhand. I could look more into that, but I think net pay. I think Mr. Jabara was pretty on target, about 23,000 a month.
Right, but that's one element, and then that was also, I think, suggested for Ken, but then it was 65 per month total. Are we paying that?
I did not calculate that. I'm sorry, I don't have that.
No, happy to jump in.
Okay, thanks.
So
Thank you.
there is the base salary for Mr. Ralston, and
Right.
that includes benefits and salary.
Right.
However, Mr. McNabb is a retired annuitant,
Right.
so he's not receiving benefits. He's receiving the town manager's salary as reflected as an hourly rate, and only for the hours that he works. And he's
Which is not full-time.
Which is not full-time. So he's currently working and probably resisting more than 3 days or so a week. And so it's certainly not full-time, and it's hourly. And so I don't think the 60,000 is accurate. I think it would be 22. I'll leave it to Celia to say the exact amount for the current town manager. And then there's an hourly without benefits, what is roughly half-time.
Okay.
And may I ask a question?
Sure.
I didn't actually hear the 60, but we do have, I think, for town manager Ralston, and I think Celia said this previously, the benefit load on salary dollars is approximately 50%, as I think, which includes pension and medical and.
That was an average organization-wide,
Okay.
so that wasn't specific to town manager.
No, probably the town manager might actually be a little bit more. But anyway, so if you took 22 and you took half of that, you'd be adding 11. So there are other dollars that go other than just salary. Although I do completely understand Mr. McNabb, but fortunately for us, right, we're not paying any benefits for that.
Yep, you are absolutely correct. So every employee has a base salary, also has benefits, also has PERS, also has other types of management leave for the department heads.
And deferred compensation, and so it gets very expensive very fast. And it goes and account car allowance and many other things beyond salary. That was my only point, which can definitely add up. And currently, I think our estimated average employees, it's 50%. So every dollar we spend on salary, we spend another 50 cents on benefits, that's kind of why people go into public service, in my experience. In part is they're very aware you may not make as much money as you might in the private sector, but you have very good benefits. So I'm not arguing about that. I'm just pointing out the dollars do add up.
Yeah, and I would just add, without commenting on the wisdom, which is up to the 5 of you, that is the arrangement that every city and county has with their chief executive, and in your case, the town manager. Yes.
All right, so any more questions? No? Okay, we'll go to public comment now. Can you come up to the microphone? I'm always worried about our TV land people. Yeah, they'd like to
Sandy
talk to me
Fagan,
after.
I live at Rancho de Napa in Yountville. Assuming I don't fly in the face of accounting procedures, going back to the loop that we saw prior to this particular, is the use of the red line customary in accounting, so that you wouldn't? I guess my thing is that when I look at it, we're conditioned, many of us, to look at the red as being an alert. If you could use a green line, maybe it'd be less scary.
Yes, I think.
Anyway, I don't mean to be facetious, but looking at it, I thought if that was green, I'd have a better understanding that we're okay. I don't know. It's just goofy. I apologize for that. The other thing I wanted to mention real quickly, just based on the budget discussion, if the council saw fit or has some flexibility in seeing fit, the actually recruiting and replacing the manager's position, if that were to be delayed until after the November elections, when theoretically, I don't know this is going to happen, but theoretically the council composition could change with some new folks there who might very well want to be able to participate in the recruiting and selection process and so forth. Would that then be the 26-27 budget?
Before we get into that in a lot of detail, that's going to be coming up as another agenda item.
Okay,
so
thank you.
Maybe bring that back up later. But could you want to address the line colors?
Yes. We are all for suggestions to improve this. Sometimes green can be associated with money, so if the expenditures line was green, that could also be confusing. But we could switch them up a little and use totally different colors and present it in a different way. So we will definitely work on that for the mid-cycle update.
Thank you from a layperson here.
Yes.
Any other public comment on our budget? Seeing none, I will bring it back to the council for final discussion and a decision. Yes, Councilmember Knight.
Thank you very much. Just one question maybe they wanted to extend to Public Works. Looking through this budget, we read that in 26-27 we're doing almost $15 million in capital improvement projects for our community, and the community sees the work that Public Works does in our parks and roads and community centers. But I noticed there's a couple significant projects for our utility enterprise, or wastewater and water utility and wastewater utility. And I was wondering if Director Ferns could just review those with us, because those are the type of things that we don't see as a community, but are what really drive and make a community survive and thrive. So I would like to hear maybe a little bit about what you have plans in those items for the next year and how that all fits into your work program.
Thank you, Councilmember Knight. John Ferns, your Public Works Director. I do appreciate the opportunity to highlight the work that, as you said, we don't often see. Our water and wastewater enterprises are located over behind the golf course. And so people out of sight, out of mind, you don't think about them very often. And so I am happy to share some water and wastewater enterprise budget items for you. From the water perspective, the most significant item that is in this budget is the proposed 1 million gallon water storage tank that would go down at our pump station site. I do want to clarify, there was a little bit of confusion in the way the numbers were presented, and the budget for the 1 million gallon water tank is $3 million. It's not $6 million. So it's a 3 million proposed to be a $3 million project. Sorry, I'm mixing my units here. And the purpose of that project is to greatly improve Yountville's water resiliency and offset our dependency on what is essentially one water source. So Rector, Napa, we do go to Napa Water frequently, but it is considered an emergency water source or emergency water connection. So being a little more self-reliant would be helpful going forward. I mean, it wasn't that long ago we were running the well to augment the system because we were in a drought. And so having that water available in a more reliable format of a water tank will be helpful. We are seeking to get the design of that encumbered before the end of this fiscal year, and then construction is built into the budget that you're considering today. The other item in the water world is the pump needed to supply water to the out-of-town water customers, also in the resiliency category. Excuse me. You've heard me talk about the water valve that was needed to do this project. That was the first step. The second step is to acquire the pump that during times of being on the well or Napa Water, we would install at Fennell and Yountville Crossroad and push water out to our water customers over on Silverado Trail so they don't experience boil water nosis or no water at all. And then the third one that doesn't happen frequently in the water system, it is in the do as we say and as we do category, is we've been rolling out the state's new requirements for reduced pressure backflow devices to protect the water system with our water customers on a small scale. And as a water customer of both Napa and Calvet, we have to do the same thing to comply with state requirements on a large scale. And so we have projects built into this budget to put backflow devices at our 3 connections to Rector. One is here in the Town Hall parking lot, one is at Yountville Crossroad, and the third one is located out on Yountville Crossroad by the barn, the Dariush barn there, and that would upgrade the water meter and put a backflow device to serve those out-of-town customers. And so those are kind of unusual capital projects. And the good news with the projects that we're listing now is they're built into this budget if it's approved, and so they won't impact a rate study and a potential rate increase in the coming years. So we are 3 years into a 5-year rate study. So in a year and a half, we're going to be considering new water and sewer rates. These projects will already be funded and out of the queue, and so that will help the rate study part. And we try to plan it that way. From the wastewater perspective, there's actually 2 fairly big projects in this budget. The first one is the office modernization project. This is to bring what is an outdated facility up to modern standards. Right now we have 6 wastewater treatment plant operators. They share a space that's roughly the interior of Dias there. So they're all sitting on top of each other, and they're able to share that space. They all get along well. Some guys are outside doing work, but ultimately when they're having meetings and doing all that, they've outgrown the office that was built in 1977. And so the modernization project is going to create a bigger workspace for them, as well as bring up the restroom facilities for the modern workforce. And so we'll have, if we have a diverse workforce, we'll have modern facilities to be shared out there in terms of locker rooms and restrooms. So it's really an office expansion project, but it's really bringing that building into modern times. The other big ticket item that you've read about quite frequently in your council meetings, I'm sure you'll miss it when it's gone, is the emergency water line repair project. And so that is a roughly $2 million project. I don't remember the exact number. It's just under $2 million. Roughly $2 million project to repair the broken water line under the Napa River. So that is built into this budget, and we're hoping to have that go out to bid and be constructed this summer, if all goes well. And the other few bigger ticket items built into the 2-year budget are major maintenance and safety projects out at the wastewater treatment plant. We have a chlorine tank that needs modern secondary containment with not a confined space to enter. And so we have a project to upgrade things like that, but that's a specific one. We have to upgrade our sludge dewatering process because of SB 1383 and not wanting organics to go to landfill. We are upgrading the basic major maintenance stuff. That place is full of handrails, and the handrails for safety are in various states of exposure. And it's important to go through and upgrade and rebuild them or paint them as necessary to keep them safe. And then finally, painting of facilities. Most of that place was constructed in 1977 and hasn't been painted since. And so imagine if you didn't paint your house since 1977, even a coat of paint makes you feel better when you drive up and see it. So we're trying to get some of the facilities, both for maintenance and just general exposure, up to modern, again, standards. So thank you for the opportunity to talk about water and wastewater.
Well, and I just want to make a comment, too, that just even, we're almost through year 3, but we're still both in water and wastewater. We have very positive returns. Many years in the past, either one, we could easily predict that either the water or the wastewater would probably have to see pretty significant increases. And right now, we don't, knock on wood, any surprise regulations that might come down from the state, but I really don't foresee that either. But, I think we're in a very, very good place for being, positive for very, just regular, small to normal rate increases in both those funds, which should be a very good news for the residents and the council who has to impose those rates every year or every 5 years. So thanks for doing that. Maybe all these, projects that you're doing now and that we've done recently in the past have, really put us in good shape, because instead of really replacing bad systems and just trying to maintain good systems that are in place, it's a whole lot cheaper to do for all of us. So thanks for thinking forward for all of us in that. So, Councilmember Tripp, you have a question?
I wanted to ask, yes, I do. I wanted to ask John, is the project that you described, and I wondered when I was reading it, that's almost $2 million that has to do with the water line that's going under the Napa River, is that the one that we may have some insurance coverage for?
Yes.
Okay, and then, so my second question, of course, is do we reflect that at all as a receivable, or somehow, you know what I'm saying, Sylvia?
Yes, all the insurance revenue that we have received is reflected in prior fiscal years. We haven't received any to date, but I think it's just because we need to ask for it if we have expenditures, yeah.
So we don't show it as something that's going to come in the door?
We don't at this point. I think we need to submit and then see what portion they will cover.
Okay.
And if we have that information by June 30 or July, we could add a receivable.
Yeah, I was just curious, because it's a big expenditure.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. And the work your crew and you do, John and Rosalba, is amazing. It makes the town beautiful, but many of our things we don't think much about work really well. And so I'm sincerely appreciative that we don't have to think about our water quality or our toilets working. And I know that sounds silly, but there's a lot of places that's not true. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so with that, can I get a motion in a second, and then we'll do further discussion on approving our budget?
Mayor, I'm ready to move approval, if you're looking for a motion.
Yes. We have a second?
And I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on all the work that's gone into this budget this year?
Mayor, I just wanted to say again that this is a long haul, this is a big lift, and it's a great way to understand what happens in this town if anybody is interested in reading this budget, because everything that that you see out in our city limits comes from this budget and previous budgets. And it is the job of staff and the job of the council to make sure everything is coming in on time and under budget or at budget. And I have to say that every year that I've really delved into these budgets, the staff has kept everything to budget or under, and they're really conscientious about how they account for the money that goes in. So I think everyone should be very relieved and happy that we have such diligent staff and such loyal staff who really want to do this work to make the community safe and chugging along as it does. So I just wanted to add that comment.
Okay.
Mayor, I just also thank you. I just wanted to follow up with the Vice Mayor to thank our Finance Director King, Kyle, and the rest, and all your staff for what you do. It's not easy to basically to put all this together, but just looking through your table of contents and how you organize it and how you can just get a big picture of the town, our finance policies, our reserve policies, it's all there. And then specifically, if you're interested in what we do and what we spend in Parks and Rec, or it's there and it's clear. And so I appreciate all the time you spend to make it an easy read and something that is digestible. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so Town Clerk, can we do a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember McKee?
Approved.
Councilmember Tripp?
Yes.
Councilmember Knight?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Reeves?
Yes.
Mayor Moeller?
Yes, and thank you to everybody.
Thank you.
Another budget down. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, so let's move on to 11B, which we need a motion to approve authorizing an interim town manager to sign an agreement with a consultant for town management recruiting services. Town attorney, you going to get us going on this?
Yes, I'm happy
Thank
to.
you.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. So before you this afternoon is a motion and also 6 different proposals for recruitment services. Those proposals are all included as an attachment to the staff report in full. The request is for you all to deliberate and discuss amongst yourselves, and I'm happy to answer any questions about the proposals that are before you, and then at the end of that discussion, hopefully a motion and some direction to staff on how to proceed here. But I'll pause because I think most of this discussion is between the 5 of you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you very much. So we received at our last meeting, we requested that our town attorney contact these identified headhunting firms, and they all submitted requests for what they would be being able to offer us. They were all very thorough and contained a lot of information. I think we've all had time to take a look at them. So any general questions for our town attorney on the documents we have? Or any question about what we'd like to ideally proceed today would be to authorize the town attorney to sign an agreement with one of the firms we have, and then he would then, if we did that, then you would bring back next week. Maybe you could identify what that would be.
Yeah, so if there's direction to go with one of these firms, we would then use the town standard form agreement for the contract with them, sign that as soon as possible. The recruitment firm would then be on ready to proceed with you all. Some of that would be open session or closed session at the discretion of the council, and would be ready to start immediately.
Okay,
That's
so,
the direction.
And just for the public, so each one of these, they typically use a fairly straightforward kind contract proposal. They identify a little bit about their company, where they're located, what their process is. They also typically identify who would be assigned to Yountville and talk about their bio. They also identify cost and how the costs are broken down, timelines, how long it would take and what they would do at specific times. And we also asked to identify different community outreach plans, and they identified those. And so that's kind of, and there was a couple other general details, but all the formats had that, general information. And as all of them, whoever we pick at the very first steps would really be a further refinement of, the exact process by talking to the council, reaching out to, stakeholders, whatever we identify, really coming up with an outline for the ideal candidate from lots of the council and, residents, stakeholders, whoever we identify, and what that plan would be. So that would all be worked through, no matter who we picked, because they don't really know exactly what we want until they talk to us. So just, what I really kind of focused on going through a lot of these, what was important to me, just to let everyone know that I thought it was very important in each one of these to find out who they have assigned to Yountville, because I think there's a lot of great companies here, but as I always say, you can find an A company, but if they give you a C team, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for ideally an A company and the A team to come here. So that's very important. And also, I took in, cost as well as timelines, that in some of my consideration. And anyway, I'll get into more detail about that later. So, questions? Yeah.
Oh, you're going to do public comment too before we discuss?
Oh yeah. What we're going to do is, like as we always do, we take questions for staff, and then we'll go to public comment. Then we'll bring it back to the council for discussion.
I didn't know that was a question you were talking about. Okay,
right.
Sorry.
So
I have a quick one.
Yes.
I wanted to ask Attorney Bell. I noticed there's some local companies-ish in Roseville area, and then some national companies that don't seem to have a lot of placements in this North Bay or Bay Area region. Did you reach out to those companies based on their reputation, or did they find out about the opening and submit, or how did that come about?
Yeah, I reached out to them. So there are a certain number of firms that are well known in this area and some that also operate in it. And so I found these, and these are the ones who responded within the time frame. And I think it's a pretty good response on that.
Yeah, definitely. Was just curious about that. Thank you.
I just wanted, because I think I had asked you to cast a wide net, and so I thought I was pleased to see, some different options. So thank you.
Of course.
Yes.
Thank you. So when I looked, some of these groups, I think in our last effort, when we were hiring Brad Ralston, we saw some of these firms. Some of them seem to generally have a more connection to California than others. If I was looking at, we'll talk about it more, but I had looking at criteria, it's really what's their experience primarily in communities like Yountville. From your experience in representing other cities or anything, are there a couple of them that you've seen more often that seem to really focus more on just California or our North Bay market area? Or
Yes. I think at the risk of oversimplifying, I think Ralph Anderson, Peckham and McKinney, and Bob Murray are probably the more California-focused, perhaps more well-known, certainly within the valley here in Napa. The other ones are also known, but don't seem to have as many placements in the area, and also seem to have a more multi-state, broader focus. And that's, there's nothing, that's neither here nor there. I think it's just a different approach and maybe a slightly different pool of candidates.
Thank you. And at some point when we get back to this conversation, the other focus that I saw that I would like to talk about with the council is really each group seemed to clearly explain what their better and what their community outreach emphasis is, and then also just how well they really explain their recruiting strategy and how we learn more about that. But so other than their just experience in the North Bay, they have community outreach and their recruiting strategies I think are important for us to discuss. So thank you.
So one final question that I have, I'm going to ask our interim town manager, because interim town manager has probably also had experience with either hiring recruiting firms or being hired by recruiting firms. So are there any general things that you would like to say as we, once we start deliberations, or any questions you think would be valuable for us to consider?
Yeah, I think the point that was made, I'm not sure if it was from Gary or the council, firms that are familiar with California, smaller towns like Yountville, understand, the dynamics of a small town and the dynamics of a role of a manager working with the council in a small town is important. Mayor, you mentioned one thing that I looked at, who's going to be leading, the recruitment. That's important. You want someone, who you feel confident with. You want to make sure, you confirm that with whoever you select, that is the person that's going to be actually doing it. Because sometimes you see it in the proposal and you end up with, an associate or an assistant. I think firms that demonstrate, that they, have the ability to provide services, maybe beyond the core services of recruitment, the outreach and engagement, or, the actual the process of identifying the candidates that, will be presented to you as council. I don't know if any of you really focused on that, but what is the process that they're outlining for you? How many candidates are they going to identify? What's their, process for presenting those candidates and whittling down the pool to the top, few candidates. So those are some of the things I have worked with Peckham McKinney. Full disclosure, they placed me in a job, so I may have a little bit of personal bias for them, but I think Gary's right. The three that I think are generally known in the area, Peckham McKinney, Ralph Anderson, and Bob Murray. But I think the other firms, maybe not California-centric, but I thought they had some interesting, approaches that maybe were a little different from the three firms that you saw that were more California-centric or North Bay-centric.
So one more question I have to get your town manager kind of perspective on hiring a town manager. I also, some of them talked about actively recruiting somebody who wasn't looking for a job, which I thought was very interesting too. So when that happens, typically I would imagine the candidate wants to be considered confidentially because, they're probably have a job and they don't want to jeopardize that job. So is that fairly common? Do you get cold calls like, hey, are you looking for a job?
I do think that is a legitimate consideration. You may have someone who's interested but hasn't, let it be known with their current employer they're looking and interested. So when you talk about or consider, your engagement and stakeholder process, there may be sensitivity to, that candidate being exposed publicly in a meeting or their name mentioned publicly in a meeting. So I would suggest to council, that's an issue you talk to the recruiting firm. They probably can give you some more, focused ideas or suggestions for, leaving that type of candidate, making sure you're not foreclosing their interest in Yountville because there's a process where they feel like their name may be revealed or exposed and they wouldn't want their current employer to necessarily know that.
So this falls under personnel, so that's another reason why it's typically done within closed session. Is that correct, Gary?
Yeah, there's actually a specific closed session that authorizes closed sessions for public employment and public appointment, and both of those would apply here.
Okay, great. Okay, without any more, we have more questions? Councilmember McKee.
I noted that most of the firms had the capacity to do stakeholder engagement, and when you are looking at the need for strict confidentiality, how typically does that work if we're looking at meeting with commissions or an extended group? How can we ensure that we have their trust so they'll come forward?
Well, community engagement can take on a few different forms. And so what I've seen, and I've seen it in a couple different ways, sometimes the recruitment firm will go and hold focus groups with the public, but that's not the candidates, right? And that's gathering information. Sometimes that's with business leaders or other folks, and there might be multiples of those meetings to gather that information. I've also seen it where there are a group of the community or some group that's asked to interview finalists confidentially, not in a broad public space, but in a more closed space, and that's really just the finalists, not the broad range of all of the candidates. So I've seen it both ways. So if the recruitment firm is going out into the public and gathering information, that wouldn't expose or address the concern that the town manager just mentioned.
Thank you. Councilmember Tripp, another question?
So my question on because I would like to see this occur in the most visible way possible. It's not mandatory that certain discussions that don't involve a particular employee or a particular personnel issue, general discussions about how to go about a recruitment, even interviewing recruitment firms, I do understand personnel discussions are highly confidential. In other words, information that's peculiar and particular to a situation, but a business sort of activity of interviewing recruitment firms or determining job scope for a town manager, that doesn't necessarily need to be done in closed session, although it might be. So my question is, does that need to be done in closed session? Does everything having to do with selecting a recruiting firm or the job description have to be done in closed session?
Well, no. Sorry, let me turn on my microphone. No, and of course we're in open session right now having the discussion about the proposal. So closed sessions are optional, not required. There are some circumstances where, well, I'll leave it at that. They're optional, not required. The discussion about like town manager duties sounds like a discussion about like a job description or other things you might ask them to do. That would definitely be an open session, not in closed session. But the scope of a closed session discussion to this is about whether or not to appoint a certain person to it and your process for doing so and your deliberations, and whether or not to employ a particular person and your process for that. So those discussions can and typically do happen in closed session for the reasons you just identified, the confidentiality of those discussions.
So if, for example, we wanted to talk to one of these recruiting firms, that wouldn't necessarily have to go on in closed session?
Not necessarily, but that is part of the process and can be part of the process for deliberations on how to make an appointment or employ. And so it is common for some piece of that to happen in closed session.
But it's not necessary?
It's not required,
okay,
no.
Thank you.
I agree, yeah, like other, yeah.
Okay, with that, let's go out for public comment before we bring it back to the council.
Carrie Hayes. Believe it or not, I'm not going to talk about facilitators, but I am going to talk about what I think is an immediately actionable way for you as council to take a meaningful step towards rebuilding trust, strengthening collaboration, and restoring confidence in town leadership and governance. Like cities such as Palo Alto, Sunnyvale, Hayward, City of Suisun City, Turlock, and Pacifica, you could convene a small community panel to participate with a selected recruitment firm in the town manager hiring process. This is an absolutely well-established practice in government and business that allows community perspectives and needs, local knowledge, and professional experience to inform the selection process without shifting final decision-making authority away from council. Most importantly, it would be a meaningful way for you to engage the community at a time when I think visible, concrete action on the part of council to rebuild trust is sorely needed. So here's how it could work. First, you select a recruitment firm that demonstrates knowledge of not only their template of their process, but the community divisiveness that's facing us. The firm would need to be one that would commit to this public process of meaningful community engagement as a required deliverable. And by meaningful, I mean 1 or 2 community meetings and or short surveys won't suffice to rebuild confidence in town governance. Next, a coordinated outreach campaign that would spell out qualifications for panel members would be distributed community-wide to solicit volunteer panelists. And the panelists should represent residents, owners, homeowners, renters, veterans home residents, businesses, and community organizations. To reflect a cross-section of the community, panel members would be selected through a transparent, publicly conducted lottery process designed to ensure fairness, broad representation, and public trust. Once formed, the panel would participate in an orientation that includes responsibilities of the town manager, qualities and competencies needed and that would be evaluated, confidentiality requirements, and evidence-based evaluation practices. Additionally, training from Administrative Services Director Celia King and Attorney Gary Bell could help ensure the process and the interviews would be lawful, fair, and professionally conducted. Panelists would be required to sign a confidentiality agreement to protect the current employment status of candidates. Once that all happens, in coordination with the recruitment firm, panelists would conduct interviews and assess candidates around agreed upon criteria. The panel would then present its documented findings to the council, and from there you would continue the process and conduct final interviews, retaining full authority over the ultimate hiring decision. To further strengthen transparency and community connection, the process could also include meet and greet opportunities with the finalists to informal community settings. So what could this accomplish? A well-designed community panel could increase transparency in both the hiring process and in you as elected officials. It would demonstrate a concrete willingness on the part of council to do its part to rebuild trust and collaboration at an important moment for our town, and reinforce that the town manager serves the broader community in partnership with the council. You very well may be thinking, we don't have time, that's what we're elected to do, gives up too much control. And I think given what's transpired in the past 2 years, and especially in recent months, I don't think we don't not have time. And going too fast, Gary mentioned a timeline for the recruitment process, for the recruitment firms to submit proposals. Where did that timeline come from? Going too fast and holding on to control seems to be in part what led us to where we are today. If you decide not to implement this process, I really look forward to 2 things from you: a publicly stated rationale for that decision out of respect for the idea, and to hear what specific observable actions you will take instead, so the community voice is guaranteed to be substantively represented in the future town manager selection. 4 minutes and 55 seconds.
Anybody else like to come up and address the council?
Yes. Robin Chambers, speaking on behalf of Michelle Egan, who is unable to be here today. But before I do, I want to publicly endorse Carrie's comments. They're sound, they're solid, and I hope we'll listen to what she has said today. So these are Michelle's thoughts on the search process for a new town manager. She bases her comments on multiple years of leading executive and C-suite searches. She says, to begin, it's important to identify a few potential search firms who specialize in government and or municipal positions. It's equally important to determine and eliminate any potential search firms who may have prior relationships with Yountville's current leadership, apart from the interim town manager. Once potential search firms are identified, they must be vetted, including a form of public background check on each firm, years in business, number of search personnel, as you pointed out, that's important, who, owners of the entity, commitment to gender diversity, and social media presence. Of equal importance, confirming that the search firm is in good standing and its financial health is solid. Understanding if any of the search firms have been involved in any form of litigation regarding a candidate or successful placement. It's also critical to recognize the key importance of the reference checking process for the final candidate. As Gary suggested earlier, the search process should include a review of the current town manager's job description and scope of authority. This process early on includes identification of interviewers in each round, ideally 4 rounds, according to Michelle, in total. And in this case, members of the community who are not elected officials should be interviewed and included in the interview process. Part of the vetting process includes understanding each search firm's successes and failures, as well as their fee structure, because they can vary. How many placements have been made? What has been the tenure and turnover of each position placed by each firm? Who will be the search firm's primary contact? Hopefully it's the A-team. Ideally, it's not an outgoing member of our council when we talk about who will be the contact here in our town. It is important at the commencement of the process to identify current leadership roles considering the upcoming election cycle. Undoubtedly, there will be leadership turnover. And in this case, it's important to include potential new leadership in the interviews and discussion of the town manager's future role. Please consider the town council, if the current town council can lead the objective fairly and healthy in this search based on what has transpired as of late. There can be good argument made for delaying the final selection process until the new town council is elected. Thank you.
Would anybody else like to come up and address the council?
Sorry about that. The knees don't work quite as well as they once did.
No broken legs.
Thank you, Alan Tenscher. Definitely food for thought. I think we need to consider where we in terms of the level of conflict and really what the conflict really means, and more importantly, what public engagement really means. If public engagement is really pretextual for wanting change in leadership, then one has to wonder, where are the real ideas? Where is the real collaboration? Where is wanting to move a process forward? So you have been tasked with leadership. You have been challenged with how your leadership has gone, but you still have the responsibility of leadership. And I think it's incumbent upon you to be mindful of what Mr. Jabara was concerned about in terms of burn rate, to not let this process drag on unreasonably long. So I would say use your best judgment, consider all the factors, consider what has been entrusted to you, consider what is best for Yountville, and let the decisions fall where they may. Thank you.
Thank you. Any final call for public comment?
Yeah, Sandy Fagan, just a quick comment. When we're looking at criteria for selecting a recruitment firm or candidates eventually, I would think it would be helpful to ask them not just to say, yes, we've had success placing individuals in a certain locale or in government or whatever, but really specifically a demonstrated experience that you can look at, that you can consider. Think about the things. We're not just looking for the best qualified candidate, but we're looking for a qualified candidate who can best meet the needs of our town at this point. That's what we're looking for. And if we can get them to be real specific about an experience they had, when we think about what it is we're really looking for, and we look at the job description and we can be real specific about what sort of demonstrated experience have you had in referring a candidate to this particular situation, rather than a sort of categorical comment that, yes, we've been successful. How? In what way? Give us a demonstration of what you've been able to do. Just a thought.
Okay, I'm going to close the public comment and bring it back to council for discussion and a decision on the selection of a recruitment firm for our town manager position. So who would like to start first? Vice Mayor.
Okay. I appreciate everybody's comments. I think we have a lot of the same ideas, and I think we should look back on our previous recruitment process and understand that we did do a survey. We did do a meeting with town residents in order to get ideas and criteria that they felt were important. I feel like that was a good process, and we are interested in receiving everyone's comment, not just a selected or lotteried few. I think that that leaves it open to what you're trying to avoid, which is a certain people making a decision. So I feel like everybody being included in these open sessions is a better approach. It will get people who are interested in making their statements, come to a meeting, say what they think, and provide information to the recruiter, and then move on to the next step. I don't personally feel like having a selected committee meet over and over and over and try to learn all the things that the council already knows about town as a helpful tool. I feel like we owe it to the community to have these open meetings, and that will be helpful for the recruiter, helpful for us. We need to include staff members in what the requirements are for a good, workable partnership between the manager and the staff. All that input is important. Yes, a business meeting, the chamber, that could be a separate meeting from just residents, but all in the same day, because we can't afford to spend endless amounts of money on all of these meetings. This is an unexpected expense and driven by a process of whatever you want to call it, mistrust, which I'm not clear is actually warranted, but what we do from here should always be in the open. and I don't want to select any certain committee to do that. We are the committee as the council. We were elected. I feel like we have brought the community a lot of good over the last years that we've been on this council, and that this assumption that there's a lack of trust is coming from a certain group, and I don't want to operate on that basis. I want to operate on the basis that we open our meetings, we hold these kinds of gathering data things, and then we proceed with a process that gets us to our end, which is finding a good town manager within the time frame that we have an interim town manager, and we need to start that process now so we don't wear out our welcome with our interim town manager. So those are my initial comments.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Tripp. Now, public comments closed.
I guess I have two. I agreed totally. It was interesting, totally with what the mayor said, because I wrote down my criteria of why I liked certain firms and not, along with maybe, and I think the mayor might have said this, anything that differentiated them, because of course everybody reads everybody else's proposals and they all start looking pretty much the same. So I have my own two firms that I like, and maybe a third I could live with. I personally would like to actually, because I don't think there's anything we could do much more important than this task, and it's always an important task, and I felt that way when we hired Mr. Ralston, but now given some of the current context, I think it's super, super important. So I really do feel would be most helpful to actually talk to two or maybe at least two of these firms. So I just wanted to put that out there. And then we can maybe discuss them individually. In terms of some of the comments, I actually really want to hear what some actual residents think of to actually get some of their feedback on particular candidates, because I think that can be incredibly valuable in my hiring experience. Other people see things that I don't see, and because they sit in a different place and they also have a different life experience. And so I do think that is hugely valuable in this current context, whether we put it in terms of trust or just community outreach, or what I think of it as more of transparency. And there's no reason we can't do a general outreach, because not everybody wants to devote the time or to sit around and talk to candidates. We could do both, a general outreach as well as citizens' reticence somehow actually interview the candidates. And I do understand confidentiality, but we have had some success with keeping information confidential when we went through the request for proposal for construction firms. That was all done confidentially, and I don't believe I ever heard any leaks or any discussion of leaks. So I know that we could achieve that if that is important. It may be more important for certain candidates than others. So I really would like to see some resident involvement, whether it involves a long selection process and education of people who would sit on a committee, or something less time-consuming but equally effective. I just think it's super, super important. And the other thing I want to say is, and I've had this experience when I've been selected for jobs, and I've seen it with other people, it creates a connection with the successful candidate, already feels connected then to some people in the community who presumably supported their candidacy, which can be very valuable. And that also works, of course, with staff who participate in the process, as well as if we have other public officials or administrators from the county or the city of Napa involved. I just think the more heads are better than one. So my 2 points are, however it works, I really want to see some residents actually involved in interviewing candidates. And however we work that out, I do think it's feasible, and it's not I get in trouble for saying not rocket science. We're not treading totally new ground. I do think other communities do manage to do this, and I don't see why we wouldn't. And then the other thing is I just wanted to say, I think I would really like to be able to talk to a couple of these firms, because I don't feel it's going to be hard to make a call without actually hearing from them, because also, as the mayor said, it's the person who's going to be doing the recruiting that is going to ultimately impact the process, and to be able to talk to them would be very helpful. So those are my comments.
But you mentioned there were two that you liked.
Oh, the two that I really liked, and I, Judge, just as the mayor suggested, we had written down the exact same comments, were I liked Ralph Anderson because they did identify the project director. There was some good language, and language is not always, doesn't determine what actually happens, but some good language about how they were open to talking about how to involve the community. They had done some similar recruitments in California, Solvang, Nevada City, which is a small city, Los Altos Hills, which is 8,000 people but small, done some work in Calistoga. So I thought they were, and certainly they were offering a pretty top person as the top project director. A little bit on the other side, I just got the feeling they were a little more flexible, a little smaller. I like Peckham and McKinney. I thought Carl Cahill, if I'm saying his name correctly, who was for 20 years, maybe more, the town manager of Los Altos Hills, could bring some very good experience. I didn't exactly like their time frame, because they seemed to want to do it really quickly, which could equate to maybe not a lot of in-depth outreach, but that's all something that could be negotiated and discussed. So those were probably the two that I would have picked out and would like to talk to more, so I could get a feeling for the person who's actually going to be doing the recruiting.
Councilmember Knight.
Thank you, Mayor. So maybe talking first about what I believe are the priorities, and I've heard this from some of the council members already and the mayor, that I'm looking for firms that will have some experience bringing managers to communities like Yountville, and but I also want to was very interested in their community outreach emphasis, and maybe in some cases we may need to explore that more, because I think it's important that we do community outreach. I think the challenge is with community outreach is that with transparency, or that how you would involve the community is important. That I think the Bob Murray, when we in our last hiring did some community workshop where people were able to come and speak and talk about what their interests were about Yountville, to give some insight into that firm. But I think we need to find a way to receive input, hear from people, but how we would go about it, I think it would is a challenge, because when you start selecting a group of people to be a part of a process, then you're at that same time you're not selecting others, and so you go into a point of view of who gets picked and who doesn't. I think when you have open conversations where people, stakeholders, community members can come and be a part of a process where they're sharing their thoughts, sharing their concerns about the community and the future of the community, it's just more open, and it's and it gives an opportunity for who is going through the selection process for us to hear what the community is saying, and that obviously is going to impact their selection process. So my focus is on what I saw was groups that I thought had some clear recruiting strategies, and also focused on our California and our smaller market areas. So of the six, I would, working backwards, thought that Raffles and CPS HR didn't have the experience in our area and didn't really reflect, I think, the needs we need. So I was down, my three that I looked at that interested me the most was BP, Wendy Brown group, and Ralph Anderson and Peckham and McKinney. I would like to hear more in terms of how we would really engage them and what they would do for community outreach, and how we could gain insight into the community's interests without just having an overly long process. I think we have a timeline where we need to move forward, and waiting for a post-election council means we're talking about potentially not selecting another town manager for a year from now. I think we have a lot going on in the community. We need to hear from the community and move forward in a timely manner. And I think what we need to do in terms of just our selection is which one of these does the best, I think, community outreach and provides us, for example, the question that Sandy mentioned is that we're asking them specifically not just their success in bringing a town manager to small communities like Yountville, but how they would address, how they would look at our community and how they would best communicate and interact with a community that has had some challenging issues going on in the last 6 months. That how would they bring their talent to the community? And so, having a sense of what these candidates will do, we hopefully will find out. I think as a part of this selection process, we may find out there may be limits to that involvement of people wanting to be a part of the process now, but I think we have to choose a firm, move forward and see what their thoughts are and how they can help us engage stakeholders in community outreach, and then just give us a sense of where the pool of people are right now, and whether we can get a good group of candidates to review and move forward. So.
All right, thanks. You want to go next?
Sure. So in reviewing all six, I mean, just so you know, the resumes, if you will, or the proposals that they sent were all like 30 pages long. So they weren't just brief documents that were listing a few significant placements. So there were long lists and certainly references, background information, proven track records. So they definitely a lot as we're considering who to move forward with. I had looked at who we worked with previously, Bob Murray, Gary Phillips. What I didn't like about that is they limited their offerings to virtual meetings with stakeholders and with directors, and you could have 2 virtual and 1 virtual with stakeholders. And on-site would be an additional fee, and I think that personal, we need much more than a Zoom meeting. As effective as they are, it won't be enough. So for that reason, I had a little bit of a question with them, but I did value their process last time. Ref Tellis, I think, is not a good fit for the small community that we're in, and I also agreed that I think it was CPS was in a category that was kind of outside of their wheelhouse, did not look like it would fit within our community. So one that surprised me is the Wendy Brown WPCP. They have listening meetings with stakeholders and community. And I do also want to say that important stakeholders and community members in that I want to make sure are considered are our commissions. I think they have that junior step of awareness of what we know, being on the inside of the council, and also they live within the community and have the relationships in the community. So I feel like they're an important asset that we haven't specifically mentioned right now. But just the way that they described the listening meetings, I thought was thoughtful. And then Ralph Anderson, though they're not extremely local, I do like that they were appointing their CEO on the search. I thought that was a plus. Stakeholder included, stakeholder meetings were kind of included, but then they also went to an a la carte part, because some of these firms include certain things and then they list other things as a la carte. So you have to kind of cross match. But their community survey aspect was an optional. So what I liked is that they focused on soft skills too, and I think it's those soft skills like temperament and personality that are important in under the microscope of our community. So I want to make sure that not only are we looking at job function and ability to work with our staff, we have a special community that needs public engagement and certainly deserves it. And so I want to make sure that we find leaders that make that a priority. I think that's important at this time. So I'm down to, I guess, 3 with Ralph Anderson, WBCP, and Peckham's didn't specify about stakeholder meetings, so I want to examine that a little more within their offerings. But I know they come highly recommended, and I've met some of their people at conferences that I've been to that have trade show components. So there's my top 3 and my bottom 3.
You want to go?
Yeah, I don't disagree with any of the evaluations that have been given so far. I would say that my top pick would be Peckham McKinney, partly because of the experience of the lead search person, because he was a city manager, and also for the fact that it was mentioned that he lives in Northern California and is available to be in in-person situations. And I feel like also the 12-week estimate of time to complete the search is a bit of a confidence that they show, and also a kind of recommendation of their focus. And I think that they indicated that they don't do concurrent searches of people who are in local town areas, which we have a bit of an issue with 2 other cities looking for town managers. So I think that's an important aspect of their proposal. And I feel like, along with Hillary and Robin, I thought Ralph Anderson was a possibility. But I also worry about the price tag that they have submitted. It's the highest, and the add-ons are also quite expensive. And I feel like if we have a difference in philosophy here, it is that there's a focused person offering in-person facilitation, and then we have the person who is a little bit less responsive and a little bit more price conscious, shall we say. And I looked at WBCP. Part of the problem is that a lot of their experience is in out-of-state placement, and not all about city managers. And though I like the idea of the listening sessions, and they offer online surveys, which all of them offer, I'm worried that some of the glossy part of their brochure comes from a lot of AI use. And I think our community is much more interested in getting our point across and our preferences across. So the use of AI, which sounds great, looks great, but it doesn't really offer a feel for our community, that worries me. So I think I would keep it to my two top ones being Peckham and Anderson, but Peckham first.
All right. Great input from all the council, and I'll just start out with my bottom line. I also, my top choice is Peckham and McKinney. They have a lot of experience, especially in Napa County, and they know the county well. They know a lot of these other cities. They've worked with them. And they are very local. Their price was definitely the best, and that gives us a lot of flexibility, I believe, to do the add-ons for community outreach. Overall, everybody had something very general, so I think that once if we went with someone like Peckham and McKinney, seems like everybody is the top of their list. That is something that, they also say they were going to come in, they're going to talk to the council, and that's one of the very first things that we would discuss is there's quite a few options. Tell us the pluses and minuses of each one of these, how long it takes, how much it costs, what kind of benefit we give, and so that would be something that we would do with them, because they're all HR headhunter firms. They all know this, and they probably have different experiences with each one of the community outreaches and which kind of a menu we want to pick from, and how many courses we want to have of that, based, and which order to do them in, maybe, based on, their experience. So I think, they could help, educate us. And I was quite impressed, especially for hiring, a town manager, that the majority of their employees are retired city and town managers, and who else to better kind of know what a council and a town is looking for than somebody who's walked around in those shoes versus somebody who's been trained as an expert in hiring somebody. So I really like that as well. So they got overall scores from me, both in best the team that they've put together, the price, the timelines, and having an ability to really help us outline the best community outreach and how we're going to go about that. Second place was Ralph Anderson. They were, again, second place, but they didn't. They were very expensive. Almost everybody said just a simple community survey, which they would design because they know how to kind of get the right answers out of people. Theirs came in at almost $5,000, where everybody else was could do something for $500, because they're pretty straightforward. They kind of generally know the types of questions. So that one was I don't know why that came up, but I needed something to kind of help differentiate that. So Peckham McKinney was definitely my favorite, and I totally agree with the vice mayor, stressing that you do a lot of this work with AI. It's maybe sometime in the future, but I'm not ready to make this an analytical decision, but rather, a personal and how we really feel about, the candidate, instead of having, Mr. or Miss AI kind of do it for me. So that's kind of where I came down. Peckham McKinney was overall. I think I've kind of heard that probably first with most people. So, if we, select them today and brought them in, would we sign a definitive contract? Can we bring them in and still we decided that wasn't that great? How would we go about that, Gary? Because I'd rather spend more time on the community outreach than interviewing a lot that I think we've got kind of narrowed down here. Some favorites.
Well, if the council gave direction for one firm, we could enter into that contract. It's obviously up to the council whether or not to continue. So if you did make a change, you could. There's a process for that. If you wanted to take more time to interview a couple, that would be all right too. I'm sure any of these firms would come and meet as well. So either one works.
All right, so let's kind of talk about that. So it seemed like overall, what I heard from everybody, we have Peckham McKinney and Ralph Anderson. Do we want to bring both of them in at our next meeting if they both can be here? Or do we want to move forward and have Gary bring back a contract for one? Would you like?
Well, I did notice if I hit my button, but so I would actually like to interview certainly Peckham and McKinney, because one of the things I do want to ask them, and I was just going back to the proposal, is I do think it's an important question to make sure that because they are active in this area, that they are not planning to do any other hiring immediately or work for either of the two northern cities above us or even the county of Napa.
Calistoga's not doing anything, so everybody knows, for a year. They have a contract in place with Alliance.
Oh, I heard it was after, right. I didn't know it was a whole year. I heard it was till after the election, but yeah. So anyway, but I still would like to know that. So I would be in favor of interviewing both Ralph Anderson and Peckham and McKinney. One thing about interviewing is you hear a lot, it's free information, and you can frequently get some really good ideas whether or not you hire the firm. So when we're querying community outreach and how people go about it, you can glean some interesting ideas. And I do understand that cost is an issue. But, we just passed a $37 million budget, and I think most of us would agree if this isn't the top issue, it's pretty close to the top issue. And some of my personal experience with consultants is you don't know what it's going to cost sometimes till it's completely over, and cheap is not always better. But I also understand why somebody would put in a proposal that is slim, because you can always add things to it. So I do think money is important, but to me it wasn't the determining factor. So that's just kind of my perspective on it.
So, Gary, I have another question. If you're
Go ahead.
So if we brought in our top two that I think we haven't gone through everybody yet, but can you also, because I've seen you do this sometimes, have contracts ready so after we do the interview that we could approve one of those without waiting,
Yes. Yeah, if this is the direction from the council, we would agendize two things, presentation and discussion with those two, and then also an item for you to approve the agreement at that meeting.
Okay.
So I would do it all at the same meeting.
And modifications could, we could, or, to be determined, we could.
And could that be done in a public session?
Certainly, if that's the direction from the council, yes.
Okay, so Vice Mayor, where are you?
Oh, you didn't talk to.
Oh, would you like to talk? Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I like the idea of interviewing two of the groups, and I agree that it should be Peckham and Ralph Anderson. I'm curious. I guess they must have an experience of coming in and being interviewed by councils in public, or I guess we'll find out if they both want to do that. But I think there's an advantage for us having them come talk to us, and then and being ready at some point after that conversation of signing a contract, and I would assume any of those additional services we might ask for after we move forward would be something we would negotiate. Those a la carte additions would be negotiated as we worked with a firm we chose. But I like that idea. Is it typical for them to maybe come and talk to councils?
Yeah, I don't think that will be an issue.
Okay.
Yes.
It's actually what we did 3 years ago.
Yeah.
These were the.
Okay.
We interviewed 5 of these.
Oh, I know we did, but in terms of narrowing to 2 and then, yeah. Right. So I like that idea. Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, that's a yes. All right.
And it will be interesting to to compare both because most of their placements are not that local. There's certainly a lot listed on Ralph Anderson's site, but and both, it's Foster City, Fairfax, Emeryville. But so I want to make sure that we find a firm that has comps to Yountville.
Yeah,
we're unique.
Yeah, I read an article, and they were the number one that was actually doing a lot of placements in Napa County. It was
Ralph Anderson?
No, Peckham McKinney.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm sure they can easily address that too. So the direction is, so we'll bring them both back at our next regular town council meeting and have contracts prepared. So we have 2 items. We'll do an interview with both and then possibly approve a contract at the same meeting. Will that work?
That works.
Is that sufficient direction, or do you need a motion?
No, that's sufficient. There seems to be consensus on that.
Okay.
Oh, no, please go ahead first.
The only point I would like to just raise is the latter part of the plan, which was to have contracts ready. I do not want to truncate any discussion about how we will do and incorporate resident and citizen involvement in this. And so if a contract is ready, is that to say the menu will have been predetermined? When will we have that discussion? Because I do think that's a very important discussion, how we're going to go about this. So it's hard to imagine signing a contract that day until we've decided how the outreach is going to look. We could certainly interview them and ask them how they do it, how they might price it, pros and cons. But anyway, you get my point. So that's my question.
I'll unpack that a little bit.
Thank you.
So what's needed is that the council needs to approve the contract with them. The actual details of what's in that contract and the like would then be handled by staff, and we would route it for signature, right? So the proposal itself, so the way that this is true for all town contracts, so I might as well speak in generalities. Usually a consultant will submit a proposal. You've seen them here. The proposal then becomes an attachment to the contract, and that becomes the scope of work for the contract. So the proposal here, where it talks about community outreach and the different steps and things like that. So if the desire of the council is, we really want you to do these 3 things or these 4 things, that would be direction given to us when you approve the contract. We would ensure that that would make it into a scope of work before that's signed, and you could still approve it at the next meeting. But if there's something very specific that you want them to do, absolutely, we'll take that direction and we'll make sure that that makes it into the agreement. The other side of that is a lot of these proposals, as you saw reviewing these, will say flat fee and then a flat extra fee to do this specific thing, like this outreach thing. The details of the outreach will be agreed upon and decided by the council with the recruiter once the recruiter has been retained. So there will be meetings that occur where they'll ask questions, and then you all will make decisions about the timing of that and what does it look like and what the questions are and if there's a survey or whatever else the council would like to do. So in other words, the agreement doesn't need to go into a lot of detail on that unless the council really wants that. It might be sufficient to say you are going to do outreach and we will tell you what that is.
Okay, and the rates. So just to reduce it to a kind of mechanical, the decision about how the outreach would be done and whether we have a committee or how we involve our residents, that would happen at a separate agendized meeting, or I guess that's what I was trying to understand, or would those 2 be collapsed? Because I do want to be, this is just me, of course, I do think it's worthy, especially given how much interest and public participation we've had in this, to have a discussion about that, how the outreach should work and what the options are.
Yeah, those will not be collapsed. Those will be separate. So this meeting is just about bringing on the recruitment firm, and then the council can have multiple mini
Okay, and that wouldn't necessarily be delegated to staff because you said, we sign the contract and then the staff works it out.
Oh, no, that's just to sign the agreement after you approve it. No, this process is only up to the 5 of you.
Okay, thank you.
And so with that direction, can you also, when you reach out to Ralph Anderson and Peckham McKinney, let them know that, in addition to probably the general questions and us, that I definitely want them to bring in the team, because that's who I want to talk to, not the owner of the company. And so we will be asking probably a lot of specific questions about where they've placed people, what they kind of know about, Napa County, other cities around here. Yountville will be giving them a lot of our opinions about Yountville, of course, and be prepared to, discuss kind of a smorgasbord of community outreach and what they found successful, how they go about it, and just, generally discuss that topic and that we'll probably want to discuss that topic in, pretty great detail, because there's lots of ways to do it, and there's lots of, we might be able to decide between the two based on, what some of their responses are going to be and what they have found worked, what they found didn't work, and see if that really fits with what we're looking for. So does that sum everything up sufficiently for the council?
Mayor, just for clarification, I do remember when we last were interviewing for Mr. Ralston, we met here, but if it was a public meeting, there was probably just the council there. So we're talking about a council meeting that'll be here. So in terms of with two firms, are we meeting with them in a council setting here, in a meeting where it's one at a time, or both of them in the room we're talking to them?
I think they need to be separate. Yeah.
So, so we're in an open meeting. We're meeting with them separately. The public's going to be in the room as well, which is fine. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah. And so it'll be an open session. We'll be taking public comment on each one. We'll have them ask them to, make a presentation. We'll ask questions, our normal situation. Public comment will occur, and then we'll close public comment, and we'll bring it back for any final, discussion that we have. That we'll bring in the second one. We can, Gary can flip a coin, whoever wants to be here first, and we'll have, we'll set up one of the conference rooms for the other ones, and we'll bring them in, because they can't just sit in the hall, because it's you can hear. So, that'll be the general procedure, and then we'll ask them both to leave, because then there'll be a whole separate item about the contract.
It's fine.
So and we'll go through that same procedure that I just outlined for discussion about the contract.
Sounds good.
Okay, we have made a decision there. Let's move on. Do we have staff presentation and informational reports today?
We have no reports.
You have no reports today. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Wait. My apologies. We do.
All right.
Sorry, Ken.
Eric.
Aaron,
I'm being told to go first. Thanks, Sam. So just real quickly, we had a successful foundation inspection today at 1980 Yountville Crossroad at the Oak and Vine subdivision, and that is for the relocation of the historic farmhouse. So that will likely be moving in the next couple of weeks, and we'll try and send something out to the community so they're all aware when that's going to happen as well. So just so if you get any questions about some activity up there, that's what it'll be.
So generally, where is that project? So, okay, you're going to figure out where to move the farmhouse, and then have they gotten all the other requirements? I mean,
no, so they did a little bit interesting. So normally in this process, they'll go through, they'll get the tentative map approved, then they'll get the final map approved, then they'll record the map, and then they'll move forward.
Right.
They've kind of done a little bit different of a process here, where they bonded for the improvements on the site and things like that.
Okay.
So they're working toward the final map, which we suspect will be coming to you later in June. Second meeting in June.
Okay.
So that'll get finalized. In the meantime, we've been going through building permits with them, but obviously we're not issuing those because the lots don't exist yet.
Okay.
But it's moving along, and hopefully the final map will be approved later this summer. And they should be ready to go by the end of the summer.
So the final map just comes before the council, doesn't need to go through the ZDRB for...
Correct.
Okay, good. That's what I thought. All right, thanks for that update.
Just a quick question for our planning director. So when we were talking earlier about affordable or our HCD or housing element requirements, you talked about the 12 units. You were talking about the 12 units that we approved at Oak and Vine.
No. These are ADUs and other new units. So the units don't count until the building permit's issued.
So those Oak and Vine and Humboldt, when those building permits are issued, those will also count toward our RENA numbers.
Well, those will count, but those are market rate. But at Oak and Vine, we have one affordable unit.
There's also one affordable unit at Humboldt as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I think it's about one of those 300 square feet.
Right.
So, Aaron, just to follow up on that, remind me how many units Oak and Vine represents, and how many. You may not know the exact, but
So
is it like 8 or something?
So there was 9 new single-family homes, if I remember correctly, 2 new ADUs, and then 1 existing single-family that doesn't count.
So that's like 13.
I think it'll be 11.
Okay.
9 new single-family, and then 2 ADUs.
Okay. And then Humboldt was 2?
5.
5. Okay, so those will, again, they don't meet the affordable criteria necessarily that is in the housing element, but they do trim the total number.
Yeah, and again, each one of those will have 1 deed-restricted affordable unit that will count.
Help. So the 57 or wherever we are now will be then reduced by, I'm sorry, my math is not.
11 by 16.
16, so now we might be down into the 40s.
Yep.
Yeah, and I just want to remind people because it was on my shelf, I have a copy of the housing element. We're only 3 years in, depending on how you count it. I think it starts July 1st. So on July 1st of this summer, we'll only be 3 years into that 8-year cycle. So something to keep our eyes on, but it's just something worth thinking about. We're only 3 years in.
Yeah, the only other thing I'd add on that, on the affordability levels that the planning director was mentioning, is that there is an overall total number, but there's also a certain number within each affordability level. And so that's what the deed restriction comments, to put a little more context to that.
Right, so we got to pay attention to both.
Absolutely. Okay, staff information and reports.
I just had a quick reminder. So the town, as well as the Chamber of Commerce, have been pushing out information to the community and businesses about the All-In group and their conference that's coming into town. So I just wanted to note that the community center, you'll start to see some activity there on May 27th with some load-in happening, and that'll continue through the 30th. I just wanted to note as well that was an already occurring break in all of our class schedules between spring and summer. So there's no interruption to Golden Ticket or other classes. It all worked out really well. The conference takes place May 31st through June 3rd. And I just got some information from Bev that this conference is bringing in 1,350 room nights to the Valley, and about 65% of those are here in Yountville, so that's really great. And they've already booked for 2027, so we're hoping that this will become an annual event. And then quickly, I just wanted to remind the community that the Vote Center will open on May 30th at the Yountville Commons Schmidt Hall. And the Vote Center will be open 8:30 to 4:30 on weekends, weekdays 8 to 5, and then Election Day 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And it'll be open from May 30th through Election Day there at the Yountville Commons.
Okay, can we send some information up to the Veterans Home to make sure that they know, because I don't think they'll have something.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll work with Hillary on that.
That'd be perfect.
Put out some information.
Because I don't think they have a manned election center up there, so that'd be great.
Okay. Thank you.
And
we're still with Sam. I want to congratulate you and your team on Art Sip and Stroll.
Thank you.
The town was hopping, and it seemed like it went really smoothly, and everything was just really well placed. And I think I saw everybody there. So congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
All right, great. Yeah, and a big shout out to Beverly too. Big, really big, putting this Yountville portfolio together and bringing this group in and getting them booked for 2027 is just quite remarkable. It's going to change those lines that we were talking about earlier a lot. I think I'm very, very optimistic, and she's just really been, hitting the pavement running on this very spectacular job. So any other staff reports?
That, of course, we're going to wrap up the budget, and then right around the corner, we will jump into audit for the current fiscal year. And on the HR front, we have been onboarding the part-time seasonal staff for summer camp, which is also right around the corner, I think, starting on June 7th.
All right, great. Everything's coming up around the corner. Great. Let's move on to any other informational reports, Ken?
I have just one to piggybacking on the portfolio.
Okay.
NVTID Yountville met last week and did approve their annual expenditure plan, and this included funding to advance that initiative.
Okay.
So Bev will be working even more in pulling that all together, and we're excited about those labors coming together.
Great. Any council external meeting reports?
I have one, and it actually is kind of an announcement, but I think it's pretty relevant. The Commission on Aging is meeting next week at the Meadows. It's going to give a proclamation for older Americans, which May is the month that older Americans are recognized. And rumor is our own Billy Hewitt will be there, so looking forward to seeing her. But that's...
Okay.
Yeah.
So flood control met. We've actually cut the ribbon, and work has actually started on this second to the last phase of the flood control project. So we are off and running. And again, I just want to say that years ago we had lots and lots of flooding around here, and now with all the work and especially this key piece, I'm really keeping my fingers crossed that we will not see Hopper Creek meet the Napa River ever again. So we shall see. Anyway, with that, I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn to our regular town council meeting on Tuesday, June 2nd at 3 p.m. right here in these chambers.
I'll move to adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstain? And that's a wrap, everybody. Thank you.